I'm glad these earphones cancel it out because I can still hear it. Mm-mm-mm.
All right. I believe we are YouTube live, if I'm not mistaken. So I do want to say good evening to everybody. This is the On the Hunt podcast. My name's Elijah Winfrey. Joining me on the screen is a bunch of our favorite people. That's right. We got the #1 Lions fan, Mr. Bobby Bless. We have got Nate Rucker. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not a drill. We spoke with his agent. It's like trying to organize a meeting with the president, but we got him here. It is Reggie Funches. That's right. We did all the paperwork, dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, and he is now here with us. One not only, Reggie Funches.
Let's just be honest. Let's be honest. They cut my check.
So want to say obviously a welcome to all the fellows. We'll start with Bobby Bless because we haven't talked to Bobby in about 2 weeks. So Bobby, fill us in. What's been going on with you, my friend?
Man, I don't know. We all family. So y'all see my face, the status I left today.
I say,
yeah, people they ask me how I'm doing. I say okay, but deep down inside, I really want a new Lions hat. That's how I'm doing pretty much, brother. I'm good though. Otherwise, I'm good.
Nate Rucker, how's everything going, my friend? I believe you actually had somebody graduate, and Bobby, after Nate goes, I want you to back up and talk about your graduation too. So
man,
Nate,
it's crazy. Well, our first daughter, she's a little bit older now, but she graduated from Oakland University about almost 12 years ago. And so right behind her, we had the middle child, Tamia. She graduated from Oakland University this year. She's a college graduate. Then the baby of the bunch, she graduated from Southfield A&T, and she's headed to Oakland University. So, they each have followed their big sister. She's laid the path for them. They following her. They are graduating, man. So it's fun time, man, in the family household over here. It's fun times.
Well, congratulations, my friend. Just a quick question, because I know I always hear about Oakland University when it's like March Madness. When you say Oakland, are you talking like Oakland, California?
No, we're talking about
Okay.
Oakland University up in Auburn Hills. Ironically, it's like 5 minutes from the old Palace where the Detroit Pistons used to play. Up on University Drive. So it's good.
So you'll get to see them. That's awesome.
Unfortunately, I can't. They get out the house slowly but surely. So walking around the house naked with a teacup is in the future. So
there you go. Bobby, I don't know how you're gonna follow that one up, but Bobby, you went to a graduation last week, right?
Yeah, my baby sister Asia, she graduated from Scott High School. It's one of the oldest schools in Toledo. So that's all. So it's a historic school, Toledo wise, and she graduated #4 in her class. She's already a STNA, as you know. That means she's going to the medical field. And she has a full, complete ride to Findlay, and that's where she's going.
All right, she's gonna be in Michigan.
Yeah, she's gonna be not too far away from Toledo, but out of Toledo. So I'm saying I love my little sister, so I drive and get her whenever she's ready. You know what I mean? So I'm just happy she's close and she's smart enough to go anywhere in this world. So it's a blessing that she wanted to stay close to home and stuff. She worked hard. If I call her now, she's probably studying in school and she graduated. So she never take a day off, come to that study. So her intelligence is amazing. So it's just wonderful to see how far she goes. I'm gonna wish her luck, but she probably don't need it. She that good, Nate. So,
man, that is a great thing.
My baby sister Asia smartest girl I know.
Hey, listen, that is a great, and it's funny because Maddie is going to be a veterinarian. She's already talking about her 8 years. So, all right, Asia, 8 years, let's get it.
Yeah, she ready.
I might as well give a shout out while we doing it. So my nephew, he's graduating from Cass Tech today.
Very
He's
cool.
over
Okay.
right now. It's a culmination of a great year for him. He was the MVP of their football team that made it to the state semifinals this year. And he capitalized on that with a state championship in basketball, Cass Tech's first one. So they got that this year. And then now he's graduating and he's going to Saginaw Valley to play football. So with a full ride. So I'm real proud of him. It's funny how you go from changing somebody's diapers to them being everything that you hope that they would be.
Man, and look, that's crazy because he played with Lil. I call him Lil Ray, but he played with Ray Sean. Ray Sean committed to play for NIU. He was a defensive end for Cass Tech as well. So, hey, the technicians is putting them out there this year, man.
Yeah, they clowned this year on both ends, football and basketball this year.
Yeah, yes, they did.
To see my nephew contributing to both teams, it's just a beautiful thing, and knowing that he going to the next level, and hopefully he can basically anything that he wants to have done, he can get it done. But he's that type of kid, man. He's a hard worker. So all he wants to do is be successful. So I'm happy for him.
That's what's up.
Well, congratulations, fellas. And Reggie, because I asked Nate and Bobby, I want to make sure I ask you too. How is Reggie doing lately?
Yeah, life always likes to throw curveballs when you're on the rise. that's when
it's kind of hard out here for him.
Come on, man, push it out. Push it out.
Started my new gig at Wayne State, in February, and everything is, going the way it's supposed to. I'm, really getting acclimated to the position and, splitting hairs with these directors and VPs and presidents and all this other stuff. And, but, we, me and my wife, we're grinding it out. We're grinding it out, with Jehovah's blessings, we'll be fine.
Well, hey man, I'm obviously I'm super proud of everybody and all the different accomplishments that we've already talked about tonight. I also am super proud about where our show is, folks. This is episode 36, which if you would have told me 36 episodes ago we'd still be doing this, that's to me absolutely crazy. But a big part of that is your support. Whenever you watch a video, whenever you like a video, when you subscribe to this channel, it really does help us out more than you guys know. We're on a mission right now. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's our next mile marker we're trying to hit. Right now we're at 377. And again, just want to say thank you. And if you know folks who haven't subscribed yet, please send them our direction. We do have a comment already this evening. Want to say a good evening to comedian Shay B, who is always like the first person to tune in.
Hey, always on time. Always on time.
So comedian Shay, good evening to you. Thank you so much for commenting. And folks, I would encourage you to follow her lead. Leave a comment, which leads us to something that I have to tell you. This is like a disclaimer. We have noticed that after we post our YouTube lives, for whatever reason, the comments that appear during the program don't show up after the program is posted. That has got nothing to do with any of the fellows you're seeing on the screen. We are not deleting any comments. It's just I haven't quite figured out what's going on with that, because we'll have a show, we'll have like 50 comments, and then I'll look at it shortly afterwards because I want to watch it, because we study what we say to make sure we're on point, and I don't see any of those comments there. So if you do leave a comment and for some reason we miss it, that is probably why, but we will do our very best to make sure that all of your questions get answered. And I would encourage you, when we're talking about a topic, leave your opinion. That way we can read it out. If we're not talking about something that you want us to talk about, leave the question, because if we don't get to it on this episode, we will get to it in future programs. So with that all being said, I think it is officially time for us to get started with some of these topics. And I got to give a huge shout out this evening to Nate Rucker and Bobby Bless. And I hope I'm not leaving anybody out, but I know that I know that these guys like did the heavy lifting today, figuring out what we were going to talk about, because I just got back from a Comic-Con on Sunday, and then I had to work, and I'm like exhausted. I don't mean it's funny because it's got me and Reggie on one side of the screen, Bobby and Nate on the other. So like this is sleepy side right over here. We're going down for the sleepy fellas. But
No
anyway,
doubt.
let's get to topic number one. So I'm going to tell you what topic number one is. It is the growth of Jared Goff. That is what we're going to discuss first. And so, folks, I think what we're asking here is, have you seen growth? And if you have, what do you think of it? So comment that, and we'll get to your comments here in a little bit. But first, let's start with Nate. Nate, growth of Jared Goff, what have you seen, and what do you hope to see this upcoming season?
Man, the one thing that we knew that we were losing with Matthew Stafford was the deep ball threat. But from what Jared Goff has done, man, he's made everybody a weapon. Everybody's a weapon. Khalif Raymond, DeAndre Swift, we had Josh Reynolds, even Cephas, all three tight ends, Brock Wright, James Dykstra, James Mitchell. He literally makes everybody a weapon. We'd like to see him. Hey, baby. We'd like to see him connect a lot more on those deep balls. We know Jamo's fast, so we need him to, add about 5 more yards on that deep ball. But other than that, man, it's good, man. And his control of the team, his complete understanding of the offense. Again, this is not a shot at the last guy that we had, where we heard different coordinators say they did a lot of simplifying of playbooks,
and they got you fired.
I knew it.
That's fireable offense, Nate. But anyway.
But to a guy being praised for mastering the playbook, and Ben Johnson, actually, because of the growth of Jared Goff, expects this offense to be better than it was last year. Jared, as he said, Jared Goff has complete control. He's right now, his understanding of the playbook is he can call the plays without Ben Johnson. That is that. And the thing of the matter is Ben Johnson doesn't have a problem with it because they are that much in tune. And so you don't see that too much. I think there's only 2 guys that I know called their own plays. They had an offensive coordinator, but they called their own plays. And one guy, historically ran the K-gun. If people don't remember who that is, that's Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly, man, they couldn't get past Dallas, unfortunately. Then they couldn't get past the Giants, unfortunately, when it came to the to the Super Bowl. Or was it the 49ers? It was one of them. But
it's the Giants, 49ers. No, it was the Giants, and Dallas.
Yeah, so he ran into some juggernauts, but he had complete control of that offense, and so that's what I love to see out of Jared Goff. Now, Bobby, that's your guy. You took up for him, except for them damn gloves, dog. What you think?
Oh yeah, hey Nate, you really took all the stuff I could say about it out of it, but I would speak on the confident, borderline, the confident but not cocky attitude. Like, even Jared Goff seems like if a guy is fully under control of everything that our guy Nate was telling us about, he walking with a little swagger. He ain't walking on thin ice. He ain't right. He lightweight pimp walking around.
It don't matter who you bring in. He like this my shit.
Yeah. Even down to how he reacted to that question about J-Mo liking something on Twitter about Lamar. He was like, "Hey man, y'all bored. Y'all ain't got nothing." You know what I mean? So he ain't let nothing get to him. Obviously, he just concentrated on football, and he doing things that leaders do. All season he having these passing camps with our own players, even down to and bringing in the Hooker kid. Goff look like he trying to help him too. You know what I mean? He ain't worried about his spot where he can't be a professional and help Hooker get what he got going. So I also feel like maybe if Jared Goff can continue to be a leader like he's showing, he'll be all right.
Okay, and it was weird because it shifted Bobby from
It
one
froze.
to another, but we are still going live. Bobby,
Yeah, so
friend.
yeah, and sometimes as just fans of NFL drama, we want to have the quarterback last drive, no time left, marches down the field. But with Jared Goff, we got the guy that's gonna drive the bus and you're going pothole. Let me go, not run over this pothole. Let me go the fast way. I mean, not the fast way, but the more comfortable way with less lights and all that stuff. So he's not trying to be the all. He's just trying to be the conductor, accessing different parts of this team, and guys like him. So with all that being said, Jared Goff, he's nowhere like the guy in the with the Rams that he is just the first round pick and we got to deal with him. You know what I mean? Jared Goff was just a guy with the Rams, and he's a leader and he's efficient. And just to piggyback one more thing off of Nate said, because you really took everything I wanted to say. But on some real stuff, just the fact that he's not locked on one guy, it makes everybody open. He like a point guard out there making great decisions, and he got solid protection. And Jared, and one last thing to just say, Jared Goff with weapons can go toe for toe with Pat Mahomes. We done seen it before. So this is a more confident, because this is a more confidence. This is my team kind of Goff with Ben Johnson tutelage, just like Sean McVay tutelage, so they say. So it's good to see Jared Goff, not just the guy that's threw in on the Stafford trade. That's about it, though. Elijah.
Reggie, before I go, I'm gonna let you go. Reggie, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, he's a leader until it's time to win a Super Bowl.
Oh man.
No, hey, chill out. I mean,
Okay.
Jared Goff is what he is right now. I
Mhm.
mean, it's the guy that we need to lead this team right now. He's until somebody else takes the job from him, he's the guy that we got to rely on. My hope is that he's not the Goff from 2019, 2020. He's the Goff that, led the Rams to the Super Bowl, ran that offense, about as well as he could be. When the pressure's on, hopefully he can perform better, because right now the expectations are higher. It's higher than it was last year. It's higher than it was the year before. So, performing well in spots and then falling away is not what we need. We actually need him. If he wants to be a leader, he needs to be a leader in all aspects, including winning. And that's the only expectation I really have right now. I mean, he doesn't have any excuses. He has all the weapons. You have a offensive coordinator that believes in you. You got a coach that believes in you. You got a front office that believes in you. They're most likely going to be giving you an extension. So right now, the ball's in Goff's court. This is essentially where we at right now. So I just want to see him perform with what we got, deliver with what we got, stay healthy, don't wear no gloves.
Man, leave them damn gloves alone. Hey, he should be practicing the whole OTAs with them damn things on.
I swear to God, if I see that man put some gloves on, I'm gonna get pissed off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run on the field and snatch it off.
I'm gonna pull a Jameson Williams and put my bed in right where the fuck I'm at. That's what I'm gonna do.
Oh Lord.
No, I'm joking.
It was something that I was looking at earlier too. Essentially, I was looking at the schedule and I was looking at how many defenses we have that were in the bottom 15 for points allowed.
Mhm.
11 teams. That's what we got this year on our schedule that essentially were in the bottom 15 last year for points allowed. He's only going to go against 3 teams that were actually in the top 10 for points allowed this year. So this is an avenue for this offense to show improvement in every aspect that people are expecting for the Lions this year.
That's our numbers guy.
I agree
Catalyst,
too, Reggie.
the catalyst has to be Goff. It has to be him. He has to be the guy. And the pressure's on him. Hopefully, I pray that he can deliver with it, because trust me, if anybody can make me say Stafford who, he's the only person right now that can do it.
So my thoughts on Jared Goff's growth. So let me first address Stafford. This is not a Stafford topic, but I do want to say this real quick. So I feel like, as much as I know Bobby and Nate, they have their issues with Stafford, and I'm not trying to get them going this evening. I do feel like Stafford, for the most part, did what he could do as the Lions quarterback. That's how I feel. I feel like he, if he would have had the one offensive coordinator, if he would have had a competent head coach his entire tenure with the Lions, he had Jim Caldwell, and he's obviously more than competent. I think we all agree on that. But he didn't have him for his whole tenure either. And so I feel like when we look at Stafford and we look at what he did, that's one of the things that, like, I will always appreciate about him is, like, I feel like he got the most out of that situation that he could, given the leadership of the team at that point in time. But this is a topic about Jared Goff, so let's talk about him. So,
I mean, we could have always had Baker Mayfield.
listen, and I would have been fine with that. I would have been fine with that because I like Baker. But anyway,
Yeah.
as far as Jared Goff is concerned, here's what I've been intrigued by / impressed by, and what I have respect for him for. When Jared Goff came out as a college quarterback, he was like considered the lesser of two evils. I don't know where Reggie went, but hopefully he'll come back. But he was considered like the lesser of two evils. That was not a very strong quarterback draft class that year. And so people were like, well, he's going to be the number one. But it was like, if there was anybody else better, then he wouldn't be number one, and it would be a completely different conversation. And my point with that is, basically, this entire man's career, it seems like he has always been everybody's second option. And the fact that he's still here, the fact that he's still playing in the NFL, that he's still a starting quarterback in this league, I got to give it up for him, because I don't know that I could have dealt with that much scrutiny the way that he has. And he seems like he just lets it roll off his back. And we all know when somebody's talking bad about you or talking bad about people you love, that's hard to do. It don't matter that he's a professional athlete making millions of dollars. If someone's talking bad about you all the time, that's hard to kind of overcome.
Yeah, because I just like to slap the shit out of people and just keep moving.
Right. But Jared Goff doesn't seem to do that. He doesn't seem to do that. And I got to give him credit for that in all seriousness. I know we joke about a lot of different stuff, but in all seriousness, I got to give him credit for that. I also like the fact that he is not afraid to say what he feels. And that is one thing that I know the people of Detroit were very critical of when it came to Stafford and even in some areas Jim Caldwell, where they were like, okay, come on, man, we know you're ticked off. Why aren't you ticked off with us? Why aren't you showing that? Goff does. Goff does show that. Like, if he doesn't like, something that you're talking about, he'll tell you that. So I kind of got to give him credit for that. He has that grit. He's not out there saying ignorant things, but he will tell you where you've crossed the line. And I appreciate that as far as that's concerned. And then as Nate was saying, when you get to the on the field stuff, he does try to get everybody involved. And I can appreciate that. And it seems like he is the guy of the moment. But like what Reggie said, is he the guy of the future? Or is he just the guy of the moment until Hendon Hooker can eventually take that job away from him? Personally, I believe Hendon is that guy probably after this season. That's kind of how I feel about it. But as Reggie did say, He's got 11 defenses that ain't worth a damn. So if you are going to get that money, now is the time. Okay. Now is the time to show us why we should pay you. But again, for me, it's his resiliency and the way that he carries himself that I really appreciate, because anybody else, I mean, you look at a quarterback that is considered a bust, Ryan Leaf. When Ryan Leaf was getting talked bad about, he could not handle it. And I'm sure there's many other folks out there who maybe had similar reactions to Ryan Leaf, but we didn't hear about it. But my point is, when you have that magnifying glass on you and everybody's talking bad about you, I mean, there was one point where Dan Campbell, I'm not going to say Dan Campbell questioned Jared Goff, but he certainly challenged him.
He definitely did.
And instead of being in his feelings about it, Jared Goff was like, all right, let me go back to the drawing board. Let me do what I need to do on my end and be better for this team. So I appreciate what he's doing for the squad. And again, it's his resiliency for me that I really like. And I would love for him to develop that deep ball a little better. I know he's accurate in the short game. And a lot of people talk about that like that's easy. And let's just be real about that for a minute. That's not really easy. Like, we look at it on TV and we go, oh, that's a 5-yard pass. How could you not complete that? But like, those windows are short for a reason. So, for me, he's got everything except for the deep ball. Hopefully he develops that. We do have some folks who have commented. Yeah.
Elijah, one quick thing about this too, because we're talking about it. The other thing that you have to get credit to, and we speak about whatever growth Jared Goff has had, is Dan Campbell, man.
Yes.
It was easy for him to be a leader because of the kind of leader that he is. Mm-hmm. So Dan Campbell setting that standard, starting with his QB going through his staff first and then getting to his QB.
Yeah.
It speaks because everybody wants to play for him, which makes it to where everybody wants to play for the guy that he's picking. And the guy that he's picking right now. And Ben Johnson is golf. And so right now, everything is in his corner right now when it comes to him being successful. He has all the pieces in place. You got a running game, cool. You got a top 5 offensive line, yes. You got weapons on the outside, yes. Mm-hmm. You got a new tight end that they gonna try to integrate. Like, you got everything right now.
And one more thing I want to throw in there though, the people you gotta look at what's your angle on the thing. If I'm Ben Johnson, I'm getting my first head coaching job. I'm gonna take Goff with me, so I'm gonna be the type to worry about him even trying to take Goff with him because they already got a good connection.
You think he'll pull a steaming Willie Beeman?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I was thinking it too. Reggie, and then you said it.
I'm taking Goff with me because I know he knows. I know he knows. And
that's how you know we spend entirely too much time together when we're all thinking the same thing. Last thing I want to say on this topic, though. Obviously, I agree with Reggie. Credit to Ben Johnson, credit to Dan Campbell. But the one fellow that I want to make sure gets credit, and I know he's getting a lot of love this offseason, Brad Holmes. Because Brad Holmes, after that first season, he could have ditched Goff and none of us would have complained about it. Nobody would. Everybody would have been like, hey, he gave his guy a chance. It didn't work out. He's got to move on. He didn't do that, though. He showed loyalty. And it seems like Brad Holmes has showed loyalty throughout every single thing that he's done. Loyalty and respect to his players, loyalty and respect to the fans and the coaches on the staff. So I want to give it up for Brad Holmes because, obviously, and maybe I'm not the person to talk about this, but I'll say it. I feel like obviously we're hoping that general manager positions in the future are a little more fair when it comes to the guys who get those opportunities. And I think y'all know where I'm going with this. Brad Holmes is a shining example of what can be done when you give somebody the resources and you get the hell out of their way and let them do their job. So I want to give it up for Brad Holmes on that. We do have some comments coming in. Comedian Shay B said leadership. That's obviously a big deal. And she said, not them gloves again with the crying emoji. And then she also said the moment. So comedian Shay B believes that Jared Goff is the quarterback of the moment. And again, folks, if you want us to read your comments, leave comments down below. I'm looking for them. That's why I keep looking down over here so I can see what's going on. So with that, let's move to subject number 2. And subject number 2 for this evening is going to be the following. We'd love to get your opinion on it as I scroll up to find subject number 2. So bear with me here. I lost it for a second there. So subject number 2, the fan love from oh no to yes about Gibbs. Hey, I like that subject, and I didn't come up with it. We're going to start off with Reggie Funchess on this one. So Reggie, how do you like when people say, oh no, and then they go, oh yes?
I love it. I love it. I love it when people had to eat crow. I love it. You're talking about somebody he was just as talented as any running back you could think of, including Bijan Robinson, who everybody named Mama wanted. And this kid, he has, once again, we talking about somebody that has all the tools to be successful. And not only does he have all the tools, he's going to get every opportunity possible because he's in that high-powered offense. You know, offensive line that you can run behind. Right now, you got a QB who might not have the strongest arm, but he can get it to you in the flats. So you got somebody that can get you the ball. You got an offensive coordinator that's creative. So right now, I'm loving, people actually realizing that, where that kid went has everything to do with his talent, and that's what matters. The talent and him realizing the field. That's what dictates where you go. That's what justifies where you go. So anybody that got a problem with it, I hope he makes everybody suck it.
So breaking news, according to Reggie Funchess, they're going to have crow as the official meal of the Detroit Lions at Ford Field this season, sponsored by Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown. Bobby Bless, what is your opinion on the oh no to oh yes?
Me and Nate, we're going to sound like we say the same stuff all the time, but you don't let Mel Kiper and Todd McShay pick your draft. The blessing was that Elijah and the On the Hunt group, we talked about prospects, and Jahmyr Gibbs was definitely one of them. So I wasn't shocked, but do your own homework. You know what I mean? Just because you waiting on what Todd McShay pick, Brad Holmes might want to keep his job and not listen to Todd, but fucking McShay. But make a long story short, it's just do your own research. And the fact that these guys went against the experts made me that more comfortable. So try to limit your expectations. We actually got a guy that we can enjoy the ride, be fans again. We don't gotta be the smarter than the GM no more. All we gotta do is enjoy the show now.
Nate.
So that's it, Elijah.
Nate, your opinion after you get finished choking.
I love my show. Hey, look, people don't realize we take shots at everybody. It just is what it is. Hey, some people can take it to heart, or you can laugh with us, or just understand where we coming from, man. We're that show that we say what fans may want to say, or even some players, or we just don't do. We're not worried about what people think that we're going to say, or it doesn't matter to us. We're giving our opinion, And when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs, man, shout out to Elijah. He was the first one who, put our eyesight on him. He brought Jahmyr Gibbs to our attention. And when you look at him and you look at his body of work, like, forget, who the well-known guy was. But truthfully, Jahmyr Gibbs just wasn't known to people in Detroit. Why? Because every mock and every analysts had Bijan Robinson as that guy. But now, since people actually get a chance to look at their difference in skill set, you say, dude. Because when I look at Jahmyr Gibbs, you can see Alvin Kamara, but I also see one of the best running backs of all time, not Barry, but when I talk about complete running backs, I look at LaDainian Tomlinson. I look at Marshall Faulk.
Yeah.
I look at guys that you can split out the backfield. And one of the things they already rave about is that he runs routes like a wide receiver. Literally. He's running routes as a wide receiver. Yeah, he's a running back, but he is that dynamic. And so when you talk about a guy that you can run a halfback toss, you can run a halfback screen, you can hit him in the flat or you can hit him in the middle. And if you paid attention to any of the games, like right now, Jahmyr Gibbs is so hot. If you Google him, if you put him in on YouTube, there's hundreds of videos of different expectations and different thoughts on how dynamic and how good he's going to be. The expectations of, I've seen one where they already said that he should lead the NFL from the running back position in touchdowns, running and passing. That's just how, once you get away from the draft position and you look at the talent, it's like, dude, how can you not? You know what I mean? A dude, yeah. And this is what I want people to say. He's going to get bigger. Like when he gets to the NFL strength and conditioning, there was some knack. I'm talking about he doesn't run between the tackles very well. Unfortunately, that was incorrect. He's just a guy who doesn't believe in taking the biggest hit. He believes in, hey, I don't have to run you over if I can make you miss. If I can run around you, I'll run around you. Yeah. If people are familiar with Jerome Bettis, one thing they told him is if you want to have a longer career, you need to know how to avoid taking the big hit. And that's what they told, Jerome coming out of Notre Dame when he first went to the Rams. And then when he left the Rams going to Pittsburgh. They called him the bust, but you seen him learning how to make guys miss where he didn't take a big shot all the time. And that's the thing about Jahmyr Gibbs. His skill set. You can look at Dante Hall, Chris Johnson, guys that are like a true joystick with the ball in the hand. From spin moves to juke moves to stop and goes, and his acceleration is out of sight, and then he's got track speed. So, y'all right. Oh yes. What up, though?
I'm gonna go old school.
Gale Sayers.
Not Gale Sayers. Roger Craig.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Only reason I didn't say. Only reason I didn't.
He ain't a high runner like him either. He ain't a high runner like him either.
Yeah. So remember. Yeah. True. And the thing about it, Roger Craig was 225 pounds.
Yeah. Roger.
so that's why I didn't put him up there.
But
Jahmyr ain't 225. But that ability for sure.
You talk about somebody with an all-around skill set that can give you what you want, and especially if he ends up putting on weight, because he does have the frame to do it. If he wants to go that route, he don't have to.
Yeah.
If he wants, that's gonna be a sight to see.
Yeah, you had that. Hell, you can go Ricky Waters. Like, there's a lot of guys, man, that, like I say, when that running back position began to evolve, guys that weren't just runners, they were able to catch the ball to become dual threats, which is one of the reasons why, like, you see smaller wide receivers now actually having a role, 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", these guys that do multiple things. So Jahmyr Gibbs is definitely that, oh yeah, baby.
So obviously I can't let this topic go by without speaking on it just a little bit. So obviously, if you listen to this show at all, I'm a huge Jahmyr Gibbs fan. I freaked the hell out whenever we picked him And I still feel like I'm living in a dream right now, that like this is not real, and I'm gonna wake up and we're not going to have drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. But every time I see that guy in Honolulu blue, I'm like, this is real. Like this is actually happening right now. Because I had been saying for 2 years prior, even before even before we started this show, I was saying to my wife Cassandra, hey, I would love to have this guy on my Lions. That would be super awesome to be able to follow another player from Georgia Tech through Detroit, like I did with Calvin.
Yeah, them damn Yellow Jackets. You had no choice.
And now I get the opportunity to. But one thing that I kind of want to talk about with this, obviously, I'm glad people are starting to come to their senses on Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm excited for that. But I also want to talk about the guy that he's going to be compared to for his entire career, because they both went in the first round, Bijan Robinson. Here's the deal. I wish the very best for Bijan Robinson. I want to make that very clear. I wish him the very best. I think he's a good kid. I like what he did at Texas. I would have been perfectly fine if we would have drafted Bijan Robinson because of all the things that Nate and everybody else on the show said about him. My fear with this, though, is that they're putting him in number 7 in Atlanta. And number 7 in Atlanta, while it has been used by other players outside of Michael Vick in recent years, it has never been used with somebody drafted in the first round in an offensive position for a team that has been dying to have somebody worth a dang to watch again. And I know the Falcons have Kyle Pitts. I know the Falcons have London as well, but neither one of those guys were really firing on all cylinders last year. Their coach is the former OC for the Titans. Here's what I think is going to happen, and I hate this. I hate saying this because I hope I'm wrong. I think they're going to run this guy like the Dolphins used to run Ricky Williams. And it is going to be a Bijan Robinson-centered offense this year. And the reason why I hate that for him is because I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be more effective because he is not being asked to be the end-all, be-all of this offense. He is asked to play his role in this offense, but he is not asked to save the day like Bijan will be asked to do in Atlanta. And I just wonder if Bijan can hold up to that, and how many years will Bijan actually play when he is being asked to be the everything in Atlanta? Because again, if you think about it, if Ricky Williams hadn't gotten suspended for, marijuana, which nowadays, like, you've got all these states who've legalized it. So I'm sure for Ricky, he looks back at that and goes, really? Like, now it wouldn't have been an issue? I mean, Calvin Johnson even talked about marijuana in his speech for the Hall of Fame, and poor Ricky Williams is sitting somewhere going, I would have had a Hall of Fame career if it wasn't for them continuing to suspend me for this silliness. But I think if Ricky Williams, if he wasn't suspended, they would have run him more in Miami. And I just feel like that's what Bijan is setting himself up for, is that Derrick Henry level amount of carries, or that Bijan level amount of carry, or Ricky Williams level amount of carries. And I just wonder how long can his body hold up to that when he's asked to being, the everything in Atlanta. Nate, how do you feel about what I just said?
Well, one of the things, it's funny that you brought up Ricky Williams, because the reason why he retired is because he enjoyed smoking weed more than playing football. It wasn't like Calvin with the injuries and the medicinal part of it. Ricky just literally said, hey, I enjoyed smoking weed. This was his words. I enjoyed it. And he was like, I enjoyed my love for football did not overtake my love for smoking weed. And he said, look at
Amen.
Bobby's like, preach.
Yeah, amen, brother.
Yeah, so it's just funny that you brought it up, because we know, again, coming
Bobby
from
and Ricky.
Texas,
Wacky tobacco.
right, with the records that Ricky Williams set in college, to one of the, I've never seen a coach trade his entire draft for one guy. Mike Ditka, probably a reason why he never got another head coaching job. But
he left.
yeah,
He left on day one.
dude,
Gone.
he left on day. He traded his entire draft, and look, but but yeah, so but
And
that's
what's
funny.
sad about that is people my age and younger, when you think Ricky Williams, you think Dolphins. You don't even think about the Saints, and the Saints are the ones that gave up all the draft capital for him. But like, as far as him being used as the end all be all, though, would
Yeah.
you agree that that's a situation that Bijan's
Oh, yeah.
walking into that Jameer is not?
Yeah, absolutely. Fortunate enough, like I say, the offensive players that they have in Arizona, I mean, not Arizona, I'm sorry, in Atlanta, with Desmond Ridder being a scrambling quarterback, with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, it forces them not to have Bijan being the one or be all. Just because of the way these athletes have grown and completely evolved. It's not even possible, which is a good thing for him. It forces you to look at other positions and put talent around them. You know, one of the things, like I say, he's not the size of Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a anomaly at that size, that strength, that speed. I mean, and he goes one game in 5 games, he may have 80 something yards. And then next thing you know, he goes back with 3 200-yard games and he's leading the league in rushing. You're like, dude, what happened? He's just one of those guys. Bijan is not that built, not saying he's not that talented, but I think he's fortunate enough to where he's not built for him to be the one all be all. So that's good. And then plus Atlanta's offensive line needs a lot of work. So that's also a saving grace.
So real quick before we toss it to Reggie, Nate, I'm looking for a prediction from you. And if it's right, obviously we're going to come back to episode 36. We're going to cut it out. We're going to make it look great. If it's wrong, we're not even going to talk about it. Here's my question. Running the ball, how many carries do you think Bijan's going to have at the end of the season? And how many carries do you think Jameer's going to have just running the ball?
Just running the ball. I think Bijan has upwards of around 250. I think Jameer splitting time, plus being used as a receiver. I see him upwards of around 175. I still think Bijan's going to have, of course, he's going to be the number one guy. We're fortunate enough that we have David Montgomery. But I think yards per carry, Jameer is going to have more yards per carry on less usage than Bijan, which is also, like I say, our offense and Ben Johnson and the way that we use it. I think Bijan may have more short yardage touchdowns because, again, we've got David Montgomery. But we're talking about, I think, more 20-yard gains is going to be Jameer. More yards per rush is going to be Jameer. But I think most of the carries is going to be Bijan.
All right. So, Reggie, my friend, you've been waiting patiently. We appreciate the patience. Now we'd love some insight. How are you feeling about what I said about Bijan and Jameer?
We got the better running back.
Okay. All right. But do you see what I'm saying though about Atlanta being like, hey, we have, for lack of a better term here, hey, we have this new weapon. We're gonna run this weapon till it breaks.
And you got to think about what they did with Cordell Patterson.
Right.
Like the second realized what type of weapon he could be. They basically ran him into the ground to the point where he got hurt.
They do got Algier though. I forgot about.
They do got Algier.
So
he is a bigger body. It's somebody that run to kind of soften defenses up and then hit him with Bijan. But one thing that we got and they ain't got is the top 5 offensive line.
Right.
And that's
we got them big boys up front.
we got
the big boys up there.
We got some furniture movers up front. So that situation, it makes it to where somebody with Gibbs' talent, he's gonna find gaps. He's gonna have alleys. Man, he's gonna have some freeways at some points.
Yeah.
A kid with his speed, the fact that he's a home run hitter. See, that's the only thing I did not like about Swift. Yeah, he was swift, but he wasn't fast.
Well, that was due to his injuries, though, because
which is very true. Which is very true. But even with at his best, I don't think he had Gibbs week.
Well, coming out of Georgia, when you think about it, at Georgia, Swift was the burner back. He was the home run hitter. Coming out of high school, he also ran track. So DeAndre was a sub 4.4 guy, in high school, going into college. He was fortunate enough that he had three backs. You had DeAndre, you had Nick Chubb, and then you also had another guy in Sony Michel. So Georgia had three backs, and it could have been where, these backs done ran it down. And then DeAndre, it was very rare that you ever seen him caught from behind. I think I've seen him twice, once against Georgia and once against LSU, where he was actually caught from behind, because when DeAndre got it, he was gone. He was truly gone.
But that's the thing. In the NFL, that wasn't really the case. like, God dang it, Swift, you almost had it. Like it was a lot of that happening. I was like,
And now, in the words of the guy from
I was gonna say Swift didn't get to play behind a top 5 offensive line his entire tenure.
Fair point.
That's gonna be the other kicker for Gibbs. It's like right now, as long as that O-line stays, I mean that O-line and the D-line, but as long as the O-line stays healthy, we should be fine.
Oh yeah, and just a caveat for full disclosure, Swift going to play for the best line, so they say. So that still can be determined also.
I heard that Swift's going to wear the number 0 because that's how many games he's actually going to start this year. Anyway, as far as Jahmyr Gibbs though, hey, it's like that guy from Longest Yard said, he makes fast people look not fast. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Last note on Bijan, then we'll move on to our third topic, and this is one. Fast. That's right.
He make people fast not look so fast.
I get it. He's fast.
So, last note on Bijan. I wish, I'm happy that he's wearing number 7. Like, hey, go for it, man. Carve your own path in Atlanta history. It's one of those things where because of what Michael Vick got wrapped up in, he'll never have his number retired in Atlanta, despite what he did on the field, which is a little unfortunate. Unfortunate that he got involved in what he got involved in. Also unfortunate that they can't honor him for what he did on the field. But anyway, for Bijan, hey, go out there, carve your own path. I just feel like in Atlanta, they could have done this kid a favor by saying, you know what, we're not going to have you wear number 7, because to me, that's like having us have Jahmyr line up in number 20. Like, that's asking a lot of rookie. So, but hey, he's number 7. We'll see what happens. He's got a division where he could probably run it up. So we'll see what happens. But Nate said running the ball. Remember this prediction. Nate said running the ball. He thinks that Bijan's going to have 250 carries and that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have about 170. So write that down. Remember that a few months from now. So let's move on to our third topic as we are moving and grooving here. By the way, make sure to give this video a like for us, and please leave those comments. We greatly appreciate it. The third question, youth at defensive tackle, what do they have to prove, and what are, keyword here, reasonable expectations for McNeil and Levi? We're going to start with our resident big fella, Mr. Reggie Funches. Reggie, that defensive tackle position, reasonable expectations, what should people be thinking about?
So the biggest thing this offseason to me was the reports of McNeil shredding himself. So converting some of that baby fat into muscle. Now he's still going to say he want to come into the season at 325, but a sculpted 325. And we've seen, when D tackles are capable of doing that, still maintaining their weight but gaining strength, not being sloppy, they're able to make that turn. And what he said he wanted to do was increase his speed. He wants to be able to not just get pressures on the QB, but actually sack the QB. I want to say he had 3 sacks this year, 2 or 3, something like that. It wasn't as that many, but we also remember him setting a record for a guy his size, putting the most pressures on the QB against the Giants. So we know he could put pressure on the QB. But right now, we want him to get to the QB and actually get him down. So since that's his reasonable goal, I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm going to say that at his size, 325 and up, he's going to have the most sacks out of somebody that big, just for the NFL. That's going to be my reasonable goal for him. So typically, something like that, you would 5 or 6 sacks.
Yeah.
I think I can see that this year. If he can maintain his peak, increase his speed, while losing his strength. That's the biggest things. If he can put all that together, that's going to be my reasonable goal for him.
As far as Levi is concerned, what are you thinking about Levi? Because we have not really seen Levi in his Lions career yet due to injuries.
Everything with Levi has to do with health. I want him to play 16, 17 games this year. That's my reasonable goal for him. Be healthy, because in the short time that you do play, you are effective. But you having 6 or 7, 8, 9, 10 games, that ain't what we're looking for this year. Right now, we're looking for our big men to stay healthy, to be able to put continuous pressure on QBs, because we're rotating in and out. It's healthy bodies all day long. In that situation, you're going to make it to where, QBs actually going to be afraid to play against the Lions, because you're getting pressure not just from the outside, but you also getting it right up in the middle, right in your face. If we can get both of those happening, man, sky's the limit for this D-line.
Bobby, your thoughts?
Well, with McNeil, I just want to see him show the reason why we didn't pick Jalen Carter. To be honest, there's more potential, and I want him to be part of the reason why we don't have to blitz. We can get to that quarterback before. So I'm interested to see. I'm a bet on him. If I gotta put my money on him or not on him, I'll put my money on him. And as far as Levi, hey, it's kind of like a Swift thing with him. You know what I mean? When he out there, he balls. So his availability is the only thing I really want to see from him. You know what I mean? So, because other than that, this might be his last shot. If he get hurt in camp, I don't see him even making the team. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this young defense is going to get better. Because to be honest, there ain't no other way but to be good, and it starts with the pass rush. And the back end got the vet, so maybe if we can give them guys back there more time. But as far as McNeil, I'm a bet on McNeil. Levi, I don't know, but what's that one kid? Then we got another kid from Kentucky or something, not Western Kentucky or something.
Yeah,
like
Broderick Martin.
That's what I want to see. I'm more interested in seeing him and McNeil close next to each other more than even Levi. Nothing against anybody. He ain't gonna come to work, so I'm gonna stick with the youngsters. So I'm gonna say they trending up until otherwise. It's only OTA.
Nate, your opinion on this? I got a feeling you got a lot to say on this one, so I'm gonna sit back, relax, and enjoy it.
Not a lot. Well, the first thing I think about when we talk about Levi and shredding, like there's a couple of great defensive tackles who completely changed their body and did not look their weight. So if he's able to get to a point to where he's not looking, 325, and he's looking chiseled, like when you think about it, what do you guys think Ndamukong Suh playing weight was here when he was in Detroit? Just off look.
About 290. About 290, 310. Yeah, about 290.
And Dominican Sue's the most he ever weighed as a Lion was 308. So he came in at 303 combine, and he stayed consistently around 305, 310, never more than 310. Aaron Donald, everybody know he was considered undersized, but Aaron Donald has always stayed between 298 and 305. And if anybody sees Aaron Donald, he's chiseled. And guess what? He's 305. So by him, Aleem McNeil.
He almost looked as good as me.
Yeah. so for Aleem McNeil to transform his body and continue to chisel, he doesn't have to, be bulky. Like they're saying right now, they want him primarily at the 3 technique, which is going to be the pass rushing position. So he's going to be considered the pass rusher at that defensive tackle spot, where Levi, Roderick Martin, Benito Jones, Isaiah Buggs, those guys are your run stuffers. But the kicker is Levi coming out was considered the better pass rusher. He's considered the prototypical 3 technique. So if Levi can show us something, because we've seen it in the preseason before the injuries, like his quickness, his ability to shed tackles, his ability to penetrate. So if you can get something from Levi, just health-wise, the production is going to come with it. Because that's the thing. We've seen it in small doses. When he's on the field, he has the ability to be effective and to affect the game with his pass rushing ability for a guy that size. So if you're talking about if a reasonable thing for me for McNeil, I'm looking in between 4.5 and 5. Levi, 17 games. And if he gives us 3 sacks right there, that's just a starting point, because number one, he has to stay. Because to me, if he's on the field, his sack total can be anywhere, truthfully, from 5 to 8, because he is that explosive when he's on the field. His quickness, arm length, like he has the moves of a pass rusher inside. He's got a rip move, he's got a swim move, he's got a quick step, he sheds blocks. He can shed everything but goddamn injuries. So that's what I'm banking on. Like, dude, just be healthy. Just be healthy, because again, they did draft a guy to take on them double teams, a guy who's going to take them on. So, and then, you have the veterans there. You've got Kaminsky, who came in, who is, a prototypical left end, right end, but they slid him on defensive tackle. And as we've seen, that helped with the growth of Aiden Hutchinson because of John Kaminsky's ability to shoot gaps, use his quickness, and they had to slide a guy over, which created single blocking on the outside for Aiden and James. So it's going to be essential, man. But like I say, 4.5, 5 for Levi, 17 games, 3 sacks. I'm sorry, 17 games, 3 sacks for Levi, 4.5, 5 sacks for McNeil is reasonable for me.
Okay. Oh, and I wanted to add too, real quick. My boy Panay Sewell, he didn't care how swole Aaron Donald was. He was said he was a dog too. So just let you know.
That's a big boy. That boy's all energy.
Get your swole ass whooped. Get your swole ass whooped. That's all.
So as far as my opinion on the defensive line, I'm going to go back for a second to when I first became a Lions fan back in 2007. So it seemed to me that our defense is like that old Mickey Mouse cartoon where you got Mickey Mouse, he's in the boat, and all of a sudden, a leak springs, and he puts his thumb in, and then all of a sudden here's another leak, and he just keeps trying to stop it from, taking on water. That's how I feel like our defense has always been since I've been a Lions fan. because there's moments where we will have a good defensive line, but a horrible secondary, or we'll have a good secondary, but a horrible defensive line, or we'll have a semi-mediocre secondary and okay defensive line, and it's like we don't even have linebackers out there on the field. So it's like we can't get it all together at the same time. And that's always been frustrating to me as a Lions fan. I'm sure it's been frustrating to the guys on the screen and other folks as well. But here's my expectation, okay? I want us to expect to sack the quarterback this season. I don't want us sitting there saying, well, let's just stop the run and then we'll have the secondary, do their job. No, I want to go back to those years where we had multiple players with over 5 sacks. That's what I want to become the norm again, where we're a ball hawking defense and we will mess your quarterback up. He better go ahead and have a couple of tubs of ice ready to go after they play the Lions. That's what I want. So I'm going to
except for no foot stumps and no cupcakes.
Hey, if that's what we got to do to get it started, I'm just saying.
I was just about to say, hit him late, hit him late, hit him late.
But I'm just saying, like, we had a nasty defense, and that's what I want us to get back to. Obviously, between the whistles, I'm not trying to get us to be the most penalized team in the league or nothing, but my reasonable expectation, okay, Aleem McNeil was that dude in college at NC State. NC State doesn't get a lot of love. I get that. But his best season at NC State, he had 5.5 sacks. So I'm going to say 6. I think a reasonable expectation for him is 6. Because if you look at it and you look at what he's got around him, in my brain, I picture Aiden Hutchinson on one side, Houston on the other side, Aleem McNeil in the middle. Houston and Hutchinson, because of what they did last season, they are going to draw double teams.
Yeah.
So Aleem's going to have an opportunity to be literally nose up on one person, not have to deal with the double team. So he should be able to take advantage of that. So I'm saying 6 sacks for Aleem McNeil. And as far as Levi is concerned, man, here's what I want. And I'm going to use a music reference here. So hopefully the guys follow me on this one. So when you have somebody who releases an amazing album, the struggle for the rest of their career is to replicate that. And they spend the rest of their career trying to bring back that one moment in time where they had an album that had everybody tuning in, all the radio stations playing their songs, that sort of thing. And every once in a while, you have somebody who maybe had that first album that really popped off, but then they followed it up with 3 okay albums. And then they have that moment where they remind you exactly who they are and they bring it back. I want Levi to have that moment this season. Bring us back to why we drafted you. Show us who you are. Stay healthy, because if he can stay healthy, his skill set will take him to another level. So I'm going to say for Levi, I think he knows his back's against the wall. This is his moment to show us who he is. I think he plays in all of the games this season. And I think, and this is going to sound crazy, I think he gets 7 sacks this year. I think he has that moment where he says, hey, remember how you wrote me off? They kept writing, but I didn't write back, like Geno Smith said.
Shut up, Geno.
I'm just saying.
Shut up, Geno.
That's
I don't want to hear that shit this year, Elijah. I don't want to hear that shit.
That's what I think. I think Levi has that moment. He has the ability to have that moment. And as a unit, I fully expect, and I would be disappointed if we don't do this, I fully expect a top 10 defense when it comes to stopping the run. And if we don't have that, I think we're not going to get as far as we all want us to go. But I think defensive line, we should have that. Secondary, I mean, we got guys that everybody else is talking about now. Like, maybe we finally have it all together. Maybe. So, again, for me, I'm saying 6 sacks for Aleem McNeil. I'm saying 7 for Levi because he's going to remind us who he is. And then as far as the defensive line is concerned as a unit, I think that we should have a top 10 defense when it comes to stopping the run. Nate, you got your hand up.
Well, I had to look. I was just doing some quick looking. And it's funny because Levi coming out, they had him as one of the top 2 best 3 techniques in the draft. I just had to do a quick look. So, like I say, man, the health is number 1. But if this guy, like I say, if he can stay healthy, man, the sky's the limit on that. And keep in mind, hey, his first NFL sack, he got that old redhead guy that I can't stand, and Andy Dalton. So that's a plus for me too.
Reggie, you were going to say something?
My biggest thing right now, the Lions, they remain healthy and continue the production that we've been seeing. A top 5 offense and a top 15 defense overall. If we can see this team go somewhere. That's basically what I'm looking at. And it's going and the key point is the fact that we got a better secondary. That's everything in the world for a D-line. Because now QBs they're holding the ball. They're holding the ball. They're holding the ball. They're waiting for the guy to get loose. And now you're getting pressure from everywhere up front, on the corners. You can't go nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're also talking about an increase in turnovers.
Right.
How many forced fumbles do we have as a team? How many strip sacks did we have as a team? These are the things that are going to make the difference, because now not only are we getting time turnovers, but we have an offense that's scoring the ball after we get the ball back.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing it the way they want to. If they want to slow the game down and run the ball, they can do it. If they want to pass the ball and get up there quick, if they want to hit you both ways, they can do it. And it all goes down to controlling the trenches. That's why I always say you got to put it down for the big fellas. Because teams that have big fellas on both ends of the ball, off O-line and D-line, that control the game, they're going to have success. So Levi, hopefully you watch our show. We got all the confidence in the world, man. They just said it. Top 3 technique coming out in the draft. Well, man, we want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're just gonna be another dude that we talk about who coulda, shoulda, woulda.
It kind of reminds me, and I'm gonna toss it over to Nate, but and I might get some pushback when I say this, so I'm preparing myself mentally. But it kind of reminds me of Nick Fairley in a way.
Yeah.
Because okay,
yeah,
right, I didn't get pushback. I thought I was going to get pushback.
Yeah, it do. Yeah.
Because
They drafted
and
not to cut you off real quick. Not to cut you off, Elijah. I'll let you really go quick. Jim Caldwell used to be on his ass about staying in shape, being disciplined. So that's where I'm gonna go with it. But go ahead, Vern. No pushback.
I just remember with Ndamukong Suh, we drafted Nick Fairley, and it was like, get ready, because here we go. And then we never really got going with that relationship because Nick was never on the field at the same time that Ndamukong was. And so
and when they was,
because Aleem McNeil and Levi were in the same draft. They were drafted in the same draft. And a lot of people thought Levi was a steal because he didn't play during the COVID year. So people were like, hey, he didn't play during the COVID season, so that's why people weren't thinking about him. But Lions got themselves a good one. And it's like, okay, man, don't be like Nick Fairley and not play until the very last moment when it's time to get rid of you. Like, come on now. But Nate, you had your hand raised. Go ahead, my brother.
Also, just a quick reminder is that Levi also helped a guy who was, me and Bobby talked about him. We call him T-Rex arms. If people remember him, Levi and Vita Vea were side by side. Vita Vea went pick 12 to Tampa, but also one of the things why he was, even if you looked at the tape of Vita Vea, there was that guy who was, the takeoff from the ball. Even if you're looking at the Vita Vea film, you're like, who is number 95? And that was Levi. So, for everything that Nick Fairley does, when he's on the field, he makes the guy next to him better. He makes it easier for that guy. Now, granted, Vita Vea has still continued to put the work in, and he's a top 10 defensive nose tackle in the league.
He's good.
Yeah,
He's good.
With those T-Rex on.
Yeah, 6.5 sacks. Vita Vea.
Yeah.
6.5
So
sacks.
yeah,
At 347.
yeah. So yeah, and that's crazy. But again, when you look at what he has around him, you got one of the best pass rushers coming off the edge. You got Shaq Barrett out there. You got, they had him there. You had Devin White. You got Levante David. So he's got guys, around him, that make it so that he can do what he does. Granted, he still shows good quickness and explosion for a guy that big. Even though, hey, I'm still taking Ed Oliver over him no matter what. But anyway, yeah, so it's a plus. But hopefully Levi can continue to get to the field. Whatever you got to do, heal up. Hopefully these surgeries on his back. And if anybody know Reggie, I know back injuries are terrible. They're terrible.
Debilitating.
Right. So him being young, hopefully this back issue is being put behind him, and he can get out here and do what he needs to do to be a part of this resurging team that has everybody on notice.
Again, we're rooting for you, Levi. If you happen to come across this video somehow, some way, we are all rooting for you. So with that, let's move on to our next topic here as we are continuing down the line here. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. So DeAndre Hopkins, a lot of people have been talking about DeAndre Hopkins and talking about he should hop his happy ass all the way to Detroit. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We're going to start with Bobby, who is Mr. Offense when it comes to our show. So Bobby, you hear DeAndre Hopkins. A, how much would you pay this man? And B, do you think we need him?
No, wouldn't pay him a red nickel. I don't want him on the team. He overrated to me. He either injured or he on steroids. So I ain't even really messing with him. He's a good contested. He's a good contested receiver, maybe the best in the league, but that ain't even the kind of offense we running and giving up jump balls and shit. So he wouldn't even be useful, but nowhere in the red zone. So I ain't really no fan of him, and I don't want no parts of him. I think we got a good team, and we don't need no I don't want to call him a diva because that's used too much. But we don't need you, bro. We don't need you. That's about it. I swear, I really haven't put that much thought in him. I guess I kind of just pray if I don't talk about him, his ass won't end up on the team. So that's where I'm at with that, to be honest, Elijah.
So I'm going to go next here. Then we're going to toss it to Nate, and we're going to go to Reggie to close out this topic, okay? So
I don't really want him.
I definitely understand where you're coming from, but maybe I can convince you otherwise. I don't really have an opinion on this. Like, I'm going to be straight up with everybody. I don't have an opinion on this one way or the other. But it's my job to give you what I do know about it, okay? So with DeAndre Hopkins, here's the thing. At one point in DeAndre Hopkins' career, he was being talked about as somebody who could threaten to be in the top 10 of most receiving categories by the end of his career. And then he ran into a series of unfortunate events. If you've ever read that book series, that's basically DeAndre Hopkins' NFL career, because he was getting balls thrown to him by people who were like working at Subway like the day before. And he was doing the best he possibly could. Okay, he was doing the best he possibly could. But when you got Jimmy John's throwing to you or Quiznos, it ain't gonna work out. It ain't gonna work out.
Not Quiznos.
So, listen, I don't know where people watch from. I want to make sure I hit all of the different, Jersey Mike throwing him the ball. Anyway.
Yeah.
So my point though is that at one point he was that dude, and then he went to Arizona. And that didn't really work out the way that a lot of people thought it would. And now everybody's talking about talking about him like he's a bum, but it's like, he's not a bum. Mm-hmm. And so what I think might happen and what role I see him filling, I could see him being our Anquan Bolden. We get him. he comes in, he's a veteran presence in that young room, and he does for us what Anquan did that one season that he played for the Lions, which was actually a pretty productive season for him. And you get DeAndre a little bit younger than we got Anquan Bolden. So that's kind of what I see.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're different players. I realize that, but like, I kind of see him coming in. If we were to bring him in, I see him coming in and being like an Anquan Bolden. But where the team I actually see him going to at the end of the day is the Ravens, because the Ravens are quietly putting together a unit of receivers that if you were playing Madden 2013, you would try to figure out a way to get all those guys. Like they're like putting the band back together in a way. But I think he ends up with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, or the Browns and Deshaun Watson. I think that's where another place I could see him going. But if he comes to Detroit, I could see him being like Anquan Bolden and being good for like 7 to 8 touchdowns this year. And hey, 7 or 8 touchdowns, that's pretty good. That, to me, that'd be worth the price of admission. And for me, I would give him like a 2-year, $20 million deal. So $10 million per year. That's what I would pay him. And of course I can say that because it ain't my money. So pay him whatever you want. I'm the most generous guy in the world with other people's money. I'm just saying. Nate, we're going to go to you, my friend. So what do you think about DeAndre?
Man, I love DeAndre Hopkins. Being a former wide receiver cornerback, man, he's not just a deep threat. He's actually one of the best route runners in the league. And he breeds toughness. He's a workout warrior, regardless of what happened in Arizona. Arizona is just a complete shit show. You know, like you say, even, you know, you've got a 5'7" guy back there running around, trying to throw you the ball. Like, dude, he's running routes. I mean, anybody would be disgruntled with that situation because, like, literally, DeAndre is that good. Like, and he's a guy that you cannot single coverage. He's not a Jame. He doesn't have JMO speed, but he has that speed where his route running is so precise. When I think of route runners, I think of Devontae Adams. I think of DeAndre Hopkins. I think of, you know, OBJ and Jalen Waddle. These guys that are so precise with their footwork, the way they set up, they inside, outside moves. And then not to mention, man, his hands. If it touches his hands, he gets it. It's just that simple. You know, and that's what I'm saying. And he is a team guy. It's not like, you know, he's a guy who just makes waves. Yeah, anybody is going to be disgruntled. If this is so-called, I'm the franchise wide receiver and this is our franchise quarterback, but he can't seem to get the damn ball down the field, yeah, that's anybody. But even then, he didn't bash the team. He didn't bash Kyler Murray. And then on top of that, if anybody paid attention, man, he's a God-fearing dude. Like you say, hey, if anybody seen what he did to D'Angelo Hall, he tore that boy ACL in their team practice. You know, a dude was mad. And like he told him, I don't fear nothing but God. You know, that's a guy who comes in, works hard, puts everything in it. Like, he attacks the defense. He's going to make our defensive secondary that much better. So, you know, yeah, you know, you're going to have to, you know, open up the book. I mean, if you're going to pay him 10 to 13 million, but if I'm the Lions, I go get him. Because I think his work ethic would be contagious, especially when you pair him with Amon-Ra, who already has a great work ethic. And then you talk about that, and then a young J-Mo who's just learning how to run routes. You put him with a guy who, you know, is historically a great route runner, works out with Slay and all the top running backs and wide receivers, running routes in the sand, teaching them in and out movements, foot quickness, not just speed, but also learning how to high point the ball, you know, how to set up your catches. And this is, a lot of people think, you know, it's just 50-50 balls. Nah, it's learning, you know, knowing how, when you come out of your break, what your depth is and when I decide to look up. I'm going to run my route, do what I do, then I look up, not looking back the entire time to where I'm giving the DB communication. Okay, here comes the ball. The trick to being a very good wide receiver and winning these contested catches is not letting that DB know when the ball's coming. So when I look up, by the time you look up, I've already got it. And then he has top-notch body control. So with that, Amon-Ra, setting, man, to me, that also helps our offense and that wide receiver room and the culture as well. Because again, he's a team guy. He's not a guy who makes waves, but he is a constant professional who believes in himself, who loves his craft. So that's why I say I won't call him a D. He's nowhere near a diva. He loves his craft and what he does, but he also loves to win. Like, hey, give me a chance, and I promise you, I'm gonna make us better. So, hey, if you get DeAndre and you cannot double JMO, then he begins to progress. If you're running a post route with DeAndre and you're running a dig with Amon-Ra, that linebacker has to make a choice. Am I going to cover deep? Am I going to cover short? Because, hey, if you drop it, he catches it. He's not afraid to go over the middle. He's not afraid to go up top. Like, he's a very great wide receiver who just has like you say, Quiznos, Jimmy John's, Tubby's, Subway, Lou's Deli.
Okay, so here's a quick question for you, Nate, before we toss it to Reggie. The 50-50 ball thing. I mean, I do get what Bobby's saying with that, and I feel like because of recent years in Arizona, folks might be, you know how it is. People remember what's happening now. Sometimes they forget what happened before. So with him, do you think it's, people are assuming, hey, he's just a 50-50 ball guy now because he had Little Caesars thrown to him, or is it something different?
I don't know. I think people just have a tendency to just look at the highlight and where these touchdown catches come from. Because remember, at one point, Arizona had a top-notch duo. It was DeAndre Hopkins and Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
They were top-notch. This is also one of the reasons why they drafted Isabella, because Isabella ran a 4.2, and they're like, okay, now we got all this speed. Kyler, you just have to deliver the ball, which we know he couldn't. And he's still struggling. And then they changed the entire offense from pro reads and pro sets to RPOs and all this. Like that has a lot to do with your wide receiver production, because now even if I'm running routes, I don't know when you're going to pick it up and run. So I'm just jogging to be jogging. Like, it's like Matt Patricia and Darius Slay. He's like, why am I running the circle 4 times and then go try to find the ball? I'm not about to be dizzy and go chase the ball.
And listen, I have to take back what I said, okay? All those other food analogies, they remain, but I have to take back Little Caesars because, listen, Little Caesars is always hot and ready. Kyler's never is. Reggie, I'm going to go to you. What do you think about
Sound like a hooker comparison.
Hey, I'm just trying to get some commercials in. That way we can make some money. Little Caesars, come on now. Reggie, what do you think about DeAndre?
I'm all in. Nate hit a lot of the thoughts that were going through my mind. Number one is that wide receiver room. I want Hopkins around Amon-Ra and JMO. I want that. I want all parts of that. Showing them how to be a professional, showing them how to get better at their craft, helping them to take that next step, the next level. 2, I don't understand why we're not thinking about golf since we support them so much. Because how can we take
precision
like that?
A route running precision wide receiver with a precision quarterback
that don't drop the ball. He done led the league in drop percentage 4 out of the 5 last years. Even when he was hurt.
He had less than 2 drops per year. He went 1 year with no drops.
And we're talking about somebody that, like we talk about the trash QBs that he had to play with, trash offenses he had to be in. And now you telling me that you can get him next to Goff. He can't get double team. You got Amon Ra. You got J-Mo eventually. And you still got Gibbs coming out the backfield. You can split him out wide. Man, that's insane. The only thing that I would be even talking about with DeAndre is health.
Mm-hmm.
And even in that situation, he gave me 14 games. Mind you, last year when he played 9 games. In the 9 games that he still had 64 receptions and 717 yards. He barely played
with a shitty quarterback.
Played half the season. His catch percentage was 66.7%.
Quick question for you, Reggie, and this is going to be like the easiest layup of a question I've ever asked you on this show. For the 6 games that Jameson Williams is not going to be on the field, is DeAndre Hopkins better than all the other guys we have outside of Amon-Ra for those 6 games?
Absolutely.
Hands down.
Absolutely. You know the crazy thing about this? And all this conversation that we haven't even mentioned Laporta. We haven't mentioned none of the other, like, it's so many different aspects that make it to where, like, DeAndre, if this is a place where you want to be, it should be here.
Dog, the play
Not
action
only-
would be insane.
And this is the kicker with DeAndre. DeAndre gives you what you want. If you want a possession receiver, somebody that can make the tough catches, somebody that the yak yards, he's one of the hardest people to tackle.
I go back to something Nate said.
Like, right now, I'm really like spazzing out when I'm thinking about what he could be for this team.
And like I go back to what Nate said earlier. Nate said, if you're a linebacker, you got to make a decision. And there's very few moments in your life where you got to make a decision. You got 2 choices and both of them are wrong. Because that's kind of how they're feeling. Because one way or another, you're giving up a catch.
Right. Think about this as a linebacker. As a linebacker, right? So you've got Jahmyr Gibbs going to the flat or on an angle route, coming straight at you. You see out the corner of your eye, DeAndre Hopkins running a post route. And then you've got Brown coming across. It's dude. The only thing you can do is just stand there and just hope Goff does a Matthew Stafford and throw it right at me.
Come on now, man. We were doing so good, and then you just had to derail.
Hey, Bobby.
Bobby, have we convinced you? That's what we want to know. Have we convinced you about DeAndre Hopkins? Are you writing that check?
I love you, brothers, but hell no.
DeAndre Hopkins, he picked DeAndre Hopkins, then he noodle armed it. God, get Goff.
Here's the thing, though.
But
even with
for real,
Jared Goff's
as long as we gotta overpay, it's gonna have to overpay for him. It's gonna be that Detroit tax on there. He ain't worth it.
Got like $30 million in cap.
Well, listen.
Yeah, we're top 3 in the league.
Yeah, why we gotta give it to him though? Why we gotta give it to him? Fuck
you know what, Bobby? Now I'm about to come at you because you have not given me one solid reason to not have DeAndre Hopkins on this team.
Bobby,
honestly, I think he overrated, man. To be honest, and it's the main reason we're gonna have to overpay for him, man. I don't think
overrated in what way? Overrated in what way?
No. I mean, his leg. He done made a few plays, but he ain't like to me. He's not even a real like number 1 receiver. To be honest to me.
Oh boy.
No.
Oh boy.
No, not Kyler Murray running around like a number 1. Like to me, if Hawkins your best receiver on the team, you ain't got much. To be honest,
He
ain't
be
the number 1.
He would
ain't
be
the number 1. I don't see him.
You don't even need him to be.
No, but I'm just saying though. But we're gonna have to overpay for him. Like how much a season? Like Elijah said, $10 million. That's like the max for me a season. I don't think we worth all that. And I don't think we that dire for that position either.
So
let these guys that we got do something first. before we
I
act
would,
like we gotta have him.
I would agree. I would agree with Bobby on the sense of we've been developing these guys. Let's see what they can do. I would agree with that. But Bobby right now, y'all got to understand, Bobby's operating on a different level mentally than all of the rest of the fellas on the screen, myself included, because Bobby is acting like that guy who's got millions, and I mean millions of dollars, and he's like, that $5 purchase, I can't do it. I'm sorry, I gotta find a coupon for it. Like, and I say that because Bobby's looking at it going, yeah, I don't think we need to spend money on that right now. And it's like, hey, we finally have an abundance of wealth. Let's spend it. Like, let's
Look at it this way. Okay, so how about this? One of the things we raved about with Calvin, we talked about his body control.
Mm-hmm.
Calvin's body control is nowhere near DeAndre. So even with the underthrown passes, those are catches for DeAndre. Right. Like that's one of the things that I look at. So he doesn't, there's truthfully, there's no underthrowing DeAndre.
Time out. What was the max that we were saying give him for a contract?
10.
I said 10. I said between 10 and 13.
I was saying 2 years, $20 million total. That's what I was saying.
Listen to this. These are the guys that are making $10 million a year at wide receiver.
Okay.
Tyler Boyd,
for folks who didn't hear Reggie.
Valdez Scantling.
Okay.
I'm going to get a cigar.
Brandon Cooks. Michael Thomas, who ain't been healthy in 4 or 5 years.
Okay. But
and Russell Gage. And Russell Gage.
Is he want that 10 million in Detroit? Or do we want it to be 15 million in Detroit? That's my larger numbers, though.
Wait. Speaking of what you're saying then, let's bump it up to 15 million.
Okay.
Odell Beckham Jr., Cortland Sutton, Corey Davis, Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, but don't he know that too? Don't he know that too?
Wait.
Don't he know
Let's
that
bump
too,
it up
though?
some more. Let's bump it up some more. Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson, and Christian Kirk. That's 20 million.
The question is, what do Reggie think Hopkins would want?
15 million.
For how many years, though? Do we want a long time?
3 years.
3 years, 15 million? I don't know.
No, not
Detroit,
3 years.
I don't know.
Total 15 million per year, $45 million contract.
Oh, I mean, that is. So, Bobby, do you got any coupons for that one?
Nah, I don't like that one either.
I'm looking at the dudes that's getting paid that, and there's nobody that's actually to say, oh, okay, this guy's better. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Amari Cooper.
Well, it's funny.
No, I'm taking DeAndre.
It's funny that you mentioned Brandon Cooks, because Brandon Cooks and DeAndre used to be teammates. So, I mean, it just kind of shows you how much they've fallen in a way. And like I was talking about before, people remember, it's always, what have you done for me lately? And, I feel like DeAndre is going to end up going to Baltimore. Like, I don't even think this is going to be an issue. Like, I think he's going to go to Baltimore or he's going to go to Cleveland. But if he does come to Detroit, I would support it and I would be a fan of it, because those first 6 weeks to have, somebody like DeAndre out there, I think that could be good. But here's the other part of it that we have not talked about. DeAndre is a late release when it comes to the offseason. So you get him in here, he's got to learn the entire offense, which I think he can do. I'm not questioning his mental capacity at all. But, he's got to learn the playbook, and him and Goff have got to get on the same page. And I don't know if they would have as much time that would be ideal to do that. I think they could make it work, but I think it would take some time for them to really get on the same page and figure that whole thing out. So they would need to do this like now, not like 3 weeks from now, not 2 weeks from now. Like, they need to do that this week if they're going to do it. That's how I
Hey,
feel. Right.
just a heads up. Do you know who our highest paid wide receiver is?
It's not one of the rookies because they're on a rookie deal.
It's Jameson Williams.
It is okay.
Yeah, because
Jameson
he
Williams
first
is the
round.
highest paid wide receiver in our world.
And how much is he making right now?
17 million total, 4 million a year.
See, I like that price. That's nice. That's nice.
And I'm around ain't even getting paid.
Right. I do get what Bobby's saying though. Like especially like if you're not bringing him in to be your number one, then why would you pay him number one money? Because 45 million to me does sound like number one.
Our number one isn't even getting number one money. He wouldn't even be our number one.
Right, but that's
number
my
one
point.
Is about
That's my point.
Number one is about production. Number one is about production. It ain't got nothing to do with what you getting paid and cashed out for. Our number one did not get paid this year.
So you and I know that, Reggie. You and I and the rest of the fellas, we know that. But you also know how our fan base is. If you pay this guy $45 million and he does not lead us in receptions, yards, and touchdowns, people are going to complain. But I definitely I get what you're saying, but I also get what Bobby's saying as far as the optics of it.
The only legitimate argument about DeAndre Hopkins has to deal with health. That's it.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. I'm just saying for 99% of our fan base, they see us pay our number 3, and I'm not saying that to be disrespectful to D.
I'd rather get the money to DJ Shark.
By the time he's definitely better than DJ Shark. He's definitely better than DJ.
No, I would rather took the gamble on DJ Shark, being that we seen him actually doing good in our offense.
Bobby, no.
They not gonna get it. They not gonna get him though. So I think they kind of don't want. They ain't that impressed with it either though, because he'd have been locked up anyway.
No, Bobby,
we really wanted him bad.
God dang it, Bobby!
I swear to you, man. Hey.
No, listen. I will end this topic. I will end this topic by saying what my father said would always be a great way to end his sermons, because my father's a pastor, even though I cuss like a sailor. But anyway, my dad used to always say that he would love to end his sermon by saying during the offering time, and I think this will make Reggie laugh a little bit, but during the offering time, he used to say, hey, reach into your neighbor's pocket and give like you've always wanted to. So as far as the Detroit Lions are concerned, I take the approach of, listen, it ain't my pocketbook. So if they want to break it to bring DeAndre in, if we're winning, I don't care. If they break the pocketbook, though, he comes in and he's not healthy, then yeah, I'm going to have a little bit of an issue with it. But at least we gave y'all a little bit of something on the DeAndre Hopkins situation. My question for y'all, though, as an audience member, what do y'all think? Do you want him here? And if you want him here, what will you be willing to pay him? And have fun with the numbers, because it ain't our money. So, I mean, but don't say something like $1.5 million. Like,
are we spending the money at all?
Well, so I think they're saving the money for later on in the season towards the trade deadline, in case we end up getting the injury bug. We can go out there and get whoever's available at the time. That's what I think they're doing, but I could be wrong. Maybe
a lot of money even for that. Like, even if
I'm not sure. Is the salary cap like the AT&T minutes? Do they roll over, or do you got to spend it all in one season? That's an honest question.
I see them using it because at the end of training camp, a lot of good guys do end up getting cut. So it's going to be a bidding war for somebody. We just don't know who that somebody is yet.
I ain't paying for nobody to get cut during training camp, and I got a potential all-pro wide receiver right there that has the ability to teach and play.
Did DeAndre Hopkins do a no-call, no-show, or did he get cut?
I don't blame him. Fuck Arizona. He ain't doing no-call, no-show. He was done.
No-call, or did he get cut?
Y'all realize that in Arizona they gotta pay for their own water and their own
For
real. Like there's like a vending machine and they gotta go put money into it in order to as far as that's concerned, I'm gonna put it down for the big fellas and say Fuck Arizona on that
That's
one.
tight.
Anyway,
That's tight. That's tight. Woo.
so let's
Yeah.
move on to our fifth topic for today. So this is actually a quote from Calvin Johnson. It says, "I'm excited to be around the team again. Just being around football and allow my kids to see some of the things that I was able to do while I was with Detroit." And obviously he's very excited about that. Was Rod Wood wrong in his action with wanting money back from Calvin? I'm going to go first on this because Calvin is my dude, okay? I'm going to say, hell yeah. He was definitely wrong for doing that because you don't do that to somebody who gave up literally their entire body for your organization. I mean, you look at Calvin, even in the photos that they were taking of Calvin, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful in case Calvin ever happens to come across this episode, because I love Calvin Johnson. He was one of the reasons why I kept watching football when I was a little kid. But you even look at Calvin nowadays, there are visible things about Calvin that will never be the same again because of the things his body went through in Detroit. And when they went to him and said, "We want some of that money back because you're no longer playing," there's no other way to say it. That's a slap in the face, and that's bullshit. That is some clown organization type things to do. And my problem with it is, okay, and this is where I know Bobby's he's about to erupt, okay? And so is Nate, and so is Reggie probably. If you're gonna go after Calvin for money,
my forehead getting red.
yeah, it's about to get real red. So here's the deal. If you're going to go after Calvin for money that he owes the organization for not playing the way that, you wanted them to and fulfilling the contract, why the hell aren't you going after Stafford?
Don't you dare. You started shit, Elijah.
I'm just
But,
saying,
okay.
though, and I love Matthew Stafford too. I love Matthew Stafford. I love Calvin Johnson. I love Ndamukong Suh. But my point is that they did this shit to Barry where they ran him out of town. Or I shouldn't say ran him out of town, but like they forced him to leave town because he couldn't put up with the losing and the clown organization tactics. And then they do this stuff again to Calvin like they haven't learned nothing. But then when Stafford leaves, it's, "Oh, thank you, Stafford. We appreciate you. You're always welcome back here in Detroit." Now, I will say maybe they learned their lesson and that's why they treated Stafford the way they did. Maybe they learned their lesson because that was Brad Holmes. And Brad Holmes seems to be somebody who actually understands that you're supposed to honor those who give their body for your organization. But my thing is, with Calvin, they should have never done that. That was a horrible thing to do. And that set us back, I believe, because when they made that decision with Calvin, it set the tone for what they were going to do with other players in that organization, like a Darius Slay and other folks like that. And I think along with firing Jim Caldwell, that was one of the things that set us on the path for Belly and that whole organization to crumble. And then Brad Holmes had to come in and save it. So I'm going to toss it over to Reggie, but my opinion is he was wrong for doing that. I'm glad that they finally fixed it, but please don't do that shit again. That's how I feel. Reggie, go ahead.
We're talking about two of the greatest players that ever played for the Lions. Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson, who by all accounts should be treated like royalty, period, because that's what they are. And all the dark moments that we've ever had as Detroit Lions fans, the brightest stars that we ever had was Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders. How dare you disrespect them like that? How dare you? Who the hell do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Ain't nobody coming to see Rod Woods. Ain't nobody coming in here to see the Fords. These are the two men that you came to see play football because that was the only thing that was worth seeing at those points in time. Now, I'm a Stafford supporter. That's not even, that is what it is. But when it came to how they treated Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson, and to a degree, even Ndamukong Suh, there's only one difference. somebody had the complexion for protection.
And don't forget Jim Caldwell.
And don't forget Jim Caldwell. So all the people that are responsible for any type of success that we had at that point, you want to go after. You want to take money away from them. You want to attack them for even having the gall of leaving your trash organization.
Mm-hmm.
But when staff leave, there wasn't a peep in the world. Nobody made a fuss. Nobody said, "Hey, can we get about 20 mil back?" Because he was the highest paid player.
And don't forget, he demanded the trade. He really quit on the team, but don't nobody want to talk about that either. But
now, granted,
he didn't even give Brad Holmes a chance.
All four of them quit.
All
four of them quit. All four of them quit. Let's not sugarcoat that. All four of them quit, but they all quit for legitimate reasons because the organization was trash. Period. You wasted.
No. Stafford didn't quit. He demanded the trade. He didn't quit. He just didn't want to work here no more.
Remember Calvin? Remember the talk was that Calvin demanded the trade.
And Calvin,
remember it wasn't that he just left.
I knew they wasn't going to trade me.
They weren't going to let him go.
He said he already knew it wasn't going to happen.
And that's what he said. That's why he retired. I knew they wasn't going to trade me because he wanted to go.
And that speaks volumes about the process. I hate to use this term, especially when we're talking about millions of dollars, especially when we're talking about billionaires, especially when we're talking about athletes. They're already in a privileged state. But there is a slave mentality that happens in organizations when you act like that. You are my property, and I will not let you go. I will not let you see success somewhere else. But the one dude that was fine with it was Matthew Stafford. They say, cool, we'll facilitate that.
And I definitely get what you're saying, Reggie, but my question would be, you know me, I'm Mr. Positive, right? So my question would be with Stafford, is it because of the fact of his complexion, or was it because of the fact that we have a GM and Brad Holmes who realized, listen, I have the opportunity here to set a tone in this organization?
No. Not to cut you off. It was how Stafford was portrayed as the motherfucking held hostage in Detroit, even though they was making him the highest paid player every fucking 5 years. That's what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying, Bobby, is that the way they handled Stafford's exit, I think we can all agree the way they handled Stafford's exit was a lot better than they handled Barry and Calvin. I think there's no contest in that argument. But my point is, I think having Brad Holmes was the difference, because Brad Holmes said, listen, I want to show people how we do things in Detroit from now on.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
So, which is fine. If you want to go that route, that is fine. But I will say this. You knew that his complexion never came in as a factor. But it definitely did with Calvin. It definitely did with Barry. And it definitely did with other players. There's no way I'm going to let that go. Because I saw they did it with Jim Caldwell, they did it with Barry, and they did it with Calvin.
And I'm not
all of a sudden it's cool.
I'm not defending them on those instances. That's not.
I'm not saying you defended them, but what I'm saying is.
But I think it took somebody, and forgive me here because I might say something incorrect.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Who remained quiet though? Did you hear a peep out of the ownership in that situation? Did you hear a peep out of them?
About what, Reggie? I'm sorry.
About what happened with Stafford, and then what happened with Calvin.
Oh no, they're never going to.
What happened with Perry, and also what happened with? No. When I say was anything said? Did anybody stop where I would have said, "Shut up"? We're giving Calvin what he needs.
No, because at the time you had Bob Quinn and you had Matt Patricia, who were probably, or not Matt Patricia at the time, but you had Bob Quinn, and they were driving that bus. You know, and that's what I'm saying is, like, I think it took somebody it took
Ownership.
somebody like Brad Holmes to say,
He
I'm
didn't
not
know.
allowing
Martha
this to
didn't know
happen.
what to do.
But that's
So-
what I'm talking about. That's part of what I'm talking about. Whose billfold is being used to fund the contract that
Right.
Calvin Johnson, Jim Caldwell, Barry Sanders, who was the billfold?
Well, remember now, this is why I'm with Elijah, is because Sheila Hamp Ford is totally different. She's totally different. And Calvin has said that she has been one of the ones, also one of the other higher ups outside of Rod Wood have been instrumental in building that relationship.
Said
Sheila Ford,
right? You said Sheila, right?
yes,
Sheila's fine.
yeah. So remember,
Sheila's outside of that boat. I'm
right.
talking about in that boat.
Remember, no, but that's what I'm saying. So you had Martha Ford. Martha Ford went to bat. Remember, she fired Tom LeWine when he botched Ndamukong Suh. She
Okay.
did that. She didn't know nothing about running NFL team. Remember, she sought guidance from the NFL, and they gave her Arnie Accorsi as a special advocate to help her with her searches and everything. So when these things were happening, Martha Ford was not a football mind. She didn't know what to do. She thought that the NFL was helping her with hiring people that would better the franchise. So when she stepped down, Sheila, who people know is more hands-on, cares about the team, cares about the players, is the one.
No problem with Sheila.
Huh? I know, but that's what I'm saying. But she's the
I got no
one.
problem
So
with
what
Brad.
I'm saying is, but that's to Elijah's point, is that the culture has changed to where that stuff, I had them two been there, wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And my thing about
That's my
Rod
point. That's my
Wood,
point.
yeah. My thing about Rod Wood, when Rod Wood was hired, and if people don't know, I'm pretty sure we know, his statement was, I know nothing about football.
Mhm.
I've never ran a football team. I know nothing about football. And he hit us with the Matt Millen. The only team that I feel that I would be a good fit for is these Detroit Lions. Reason being, because they're at the bottom. They're fuck up with this organization's fucked up already. So if I do it, I fit in.
You
Right.
know what?
So,
You know what?
and Rod Wood has
I
a
will acquiesce.
business mindset. Remember now, Rod Wood was coming from a business mindset, not a loyalty, not a legacy. He wasn't looking at none of that.
Mhm.
So again, yeah, he was wrong. Yes, I can understand from the business side why he wanted that from Calvin, but the organization and how they did Matthew Stafford was totally different. Brad Holmes knew how Brad Holmes knew how he could maximize on Matthew Stafford. And
So
look what he's done.
I will
with
tell you this. I will tell you that I will acquiesce on Stafford. I ain't acquiescing on Calvin and Barry.
No. I'm not either. I'm just saying
I will acquiesce
was,
on my previous statement though.
But if Brad Holmes was there,
but that's the only reason, and I get what Elijah's saying, is that you had different people in charge. When Barry was doing it, he had Ford there. We knew what he was doing. We knew he was stupid. He hired Matt Millen and said, you'll learn on the job. So we knew he was stupid. He turned around. They traded away Ray Crockett, who went on to win 2 Super Bowls with Denver. You traded away Lomas Brown. You traded away everything. You hired Bobby Ross, and Barry said, listen, I'm the franchise guy, and I'm telling you, I want these people here because I want to win, and you trade them, I'm done. That means I don't mean shit to you as your franchise guy. That's why Barry left. Because you had that. Go ahead.
Which goes to Reggie's point about you are my property.
Exactly.
because I don't value what you have to say. You are just property. So I get what Reggie's saying.
Exactly.
Put
My
this money
point
in
is-
my pocket and shut up.
Right.
Put
But
this money in my
Yeah.
pocket and shut up.
my point
Yeah.
is that if Brad Holmes was there when the situation with Barry went down, when the situation with Calvin went down, it would not have.
It's totally different.
It would not have. He would
Actually,
not
I
have
would
allowed
say
that to go down
if
like that.
Brad Holmes and Sheila were there,
Well, that
Sheila.
because you
That
still,
too, that
you
too, but
still
I'm
need
saying
the
Brad-
backing of the billfold.
Yeah. Okay. I get what you're
Still
saying.
need the
Yeah,
backing
yeah,
of the
but
billfold.
if you notice what the first thing Sheila did, she took a lot of shit away from Rod Wood. So
Yeah.
guess what? What you gonna worry about is concessions and pricing and all that. Okay, you're the business part. The football shit you stay out of. It's my money. So we don't need you and your input when it comes to this. So when it comes to promotion, when it comes to advancement in Ford Field, when it comes to all of that, yes, then I will contact you. But for the rest, I don't need you.
Right.
And
You know what's
again,
funny, man?
so that's why I say, and I get where Elijah's coming from, because if you got Sheila Hamp and Brad Holmes, none of that happens. And so Brad Holmes, being the mind that he is, yeah, they could have stiffed it, Matt Stafford, and made him stay there. But Brad Holmes said, listen, you guys brought me here to build a football team.
Mhm.
You have the diamond of your franchise, and everybody loves Matthew Stafford. So guess what? I'm going to trade him for, as Elijah said, a guy that's never been the favorite of anybody.
Mhm.
He's always not been good enough. And then I'm going to take these additional draft picks and put us in a position where we're in now, to where we're the up and come, our height and everything else. And Sheila is in the process of fixing these relationships. You know, when you seen Barry start to come back, guess what? That was Sheila and Martha. That's why Barry came back around. So all that stuff, and Martha tried to fix Ndamukong Suh, but that damage was
What
done.
the billfold says dictates the path.
So Bobby,
So, but again, hey,
I'm
but
looking
you
at this
cannot
right now.
move forward. You can't move forward without addressing the past. And
Right.
that's where
Oh, yeah.
I'm so glad Sheila has done. She made sure when she took over, hey, Quinn, this is how smart, and I give her credit. She said, okay, Smelly Belly and Mr. Too Smart, we gonna give y'all an extension together. So guess what? When I fire one, I fire both. Ding, 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 ding. Both of y'all got the same contract. Both of y'all get the fuck off. You vouch for this guy. You came in and, you know, okay, we took the bait. Right. 9 and 7 ain't good enough.
Yeah.
Your first meeting, while Jim Caldwell is still here, you are talking about this Matt Patricia guy.
Yep.
2 years later, you're still talking about him. So, okay, we bring him in. It didn't work. It sucked. So because you bring him in, it's the same way if we reference somebody for a job.
Mhm.
Hey, dog, my man ain't been to work. He's actually one of the piss poorest workers ever. So guess what? You brung him in on your name, so you go with him.
Right. Bobby, you've been waiting patiently, my friend. So what are your opinions on the Calvin Johnson situation?
Let it rip, Bobby.
No, I mean, it all boils down to, like, when you do good people wrong, good stuff don't happen to you. It's all about breaking trends and curses. Similar to like the Red Sox not letting the old lady bring her gold into the game and she jinxed them for 100 years or something like that. So
Everything
you try
in the
to,
world that the New York Knicks have done,
yeah,
they just
right.
everybody. Legends, it don't even matter.
Right. So, but what it boiled down to was that a lot, to me, the difference, it ain't even really about race, but Nate, I ain't never avoided that conversation. But to me, it was
You know
more
we
like,
don't.
yeah. So, but to me, it was more so of the commodity of Stafford. people always looked at Stafford as the guy that was, damn, if he was on another team, if he was on our team, and then you got to remember too that they let Stafford even talk to McVay because technically ain't that like tampering, like
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
yeah, so like
they was on vacation together.
yeah, some old bull. So I think the fact that Matthew Stafford was always the guy trapped in Detroit made it easier to for Brad Holmes to get them damn draft picks up out of the Rams, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then you putting and add the fact, like, to bring it back to what Elijah said earlier, man, them dudes in the Rams that McVay did not like golf. There's so many different kind of like tabloid rumors about all that stuff that was going on out there and stuff. So it was just best of both worlds. Yeah, he made a move on old man wife. So, but to make a long story short, I think it definitely was a guy named Rod Wood that don't understand football to even ask for Calvin Johnson money back. That alone, just a number guy. One thing you know about guys that just stuck on numbers.
Calculator boys.
Not our boy Reggie, but there's some guys that stuck on numbers.
But...
They lose the personality, the personal part of the thing. You know what I mean? Like, he a walking legend. You know what I'm saying? He a walking legend. So you shouldn't. And Detroit, the money that Calvin Johnson gave back to the Lions, missed the Ford family probably got that in the ashtray of the limo. So it's just more of a petty thing. And to do I hope they paid my man back with interest, and that helped just get us going in the right direction, though.
Hey,
but
Bob,
it was more so. Yeah.
Got a question.
Okay.
You think Rod Wood know where the bodies are buried?
No.
Because
I think Rod Wood.
He's so dirty. He's so dirty.
He'll oversee all the football business operations for the Lions. Yeah. I can understand the business aspect. He should not be speaking on football.
No, he doesn't. But that's what I'm saying. His title. No. What I'm saying is, no. But
I don't even think you think about football till Thanksgiving, like you said. To be honest,
right. See, his title as CEO is as such, but his particular duties is different. You know,
it's for Sheila.
But
his duties and who he has direct contact with is different.
There's no way that man should take it.
Yeah, but as far as like the non-football stuff with Rod Wood, he has made Ford Field way more enjoyable to watch a game. A lot of shit going on in there. But as far as like running,
operations.
But as far as like running the team, and I'm so glad they got my guy Spielman and football guys up there to break his part. Let him concentrate on that other stuff, like keeping Wi-Fi and all that.
He said, "Keep the Wi-Fi going."
And that Wi-Fi at Ford Field good, Nate. I'm telling you, man, it's good.
Hey, I know.
But the beauty of
it too.
Yeah, and the beauty of it though is the fact that not only did they get football guys, they kind of went about it like the college football route. You know, if you want your college football program to be good, get people who have an invested interest outside of their paycheck in your college, people who are alumni. They went out and they got Detroit Lions alumni to be a part of this organization. So not only do they have hey, I want to get a paycheck, but they also are saying, man, I want this thing to be successful because I love this place. I actually put blood, sweat, and tears on this field.
Which is a huge reason why Marvin Jones was brought back. A lot, he started his wife business here. He still had, property here. The same thing when Ndamukong.
I ain't gonna tell you. I ain't gonna say what you said about them damn cakes she was making, though, Nate. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Hey, listen, man. Them things is fucking terrible, dog. Hey,
They was
you know
going
I
in
had
on
to
them
go.
cakes.
I went, man. Them damn shits, man. I don't know if they was using baking powder or baking soda. That shit, man.
So to wrap up the Calvin subject and to move us on to our final two topics that we have for tonight, and we appreciate everybody sticking with us. And if you're just tuning in, make sure you like this video, leave us a comment, and subscribe. We were
Yeah, I'm gonna say, do we have any comments? Let's make sure we get these people comments and questions.
We have not had some comments in a little while, actually, and we've been.
I made a
we've
comment.
been
You
having
ain't gonna read my comment. You're not gonna read my damn comment.
Well, your comment just said golf, 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 and then there was somebody that I think listens to my morning radio show.
There you go.
Said, "Go Messina Red Raiders." So
Golf.
Put that one out there too. Yeah, he's a big.
I was wondering why you.
Rock and Morty is to be here in a couple months. They got it.
So just to wrap up the Calvin subject, you know, we talked a lot about Rod Wood and his business acumen and all that. The thing that I will say before we move on is that if he could do it over again, I think he probably would. But B, what he should have done before asking Calvin for the money back, which he never should have done that. But before he even had that conversation, if you know nothing about football, okay, that's fine. Conduct a study, an economic study of what Calvin Johnson has brought to the city of Detroit. Because you can do that. You can actually crunch the numbers. How many people were buying tickets to see Calvin? How many people, because of the influx of folks going into Detroit, were able to start downtown Detroit businesses because of Calvin Johnson? How many kids maybe chose a different path that might lead them to a successful life?
How many weed stores were over?
Well, that too. And that's kind of funny.
But that's similar to the LeBron.
I said chose a different
That's similar
path.
to the LeBron
You know what I'm
James
saying?
effect in Cleveland too. That's similar to the LeBron James effect.
My point is, as a business person, that is something that he had at his disposal to do, was to do an economic study, and he didn't do that. Because if he would have done that, he never would have asked that question.
He did this. Barry's number one, Calvin's number two in our hearts.
Right.
Man, what do you want? This is common sense, man. Like, it ain't even some stuff we ain't even gotta make difficult, and they made it difficult. Why?
White people.
If you claim to have the fans' best interests at heart, how do you disrespect the two?
They don't.
You feeding me a line of bull. That's all you doing.
That's why people so often in this life, and I will say this because I'm allowed to, that's why so many people say, dang these white people, because we do make things a lot more difficult than we need to 9 times out of 10. But anyway, we're gonna try to keep.
But to be honest, when the seats filling up, sold out, no matter if they win, lose, or draw, they have no real motivation.
You know what?
Get it
you know what,
together.
Bobby? It's one last aspect to this that pissed me off. It was the amount of people, fans, local media that were supporting them and saying that took the cake. It was just as bad as when they was talking about Caldwell to me. It was just
if not worse. Me personally, I put the Detroit media as one of the main contributors why Caldwell ain't got fired, because Caldwell wouldn't tell them nothing with who injured. He could watch Eric Ebron drop 10 passes in practice, and he's still gonna say he's gonna be ready for the game. So Caldwell
he always put his players first, man.
Exactly.
That's the culture that man created. He always put his players first, and that's who Calvin was, man. He always put his teammates first. You ain't never heard Calvin making no waves.
Didn't nobody even want to be the Lions coach, but Caldwell. He got hired. He was the only one wanted the job.
The only legitimate argument you can ever make about Calvin is he didn't speak up enough. That's the only thing you can say about Calvin, and that'll be legit.
But you know what's sad about that though, Reggie? And I promise that we do have 2 other topics to get to. You know what's sad about that? I agree with you, but it's like we talked about with the linebackers earlier, where, okay, you got DeAndre Hopkins, you got Amon-Ra, you got Gibbs. It don't matter what choice you choose, you're always going to be wrong. If Calvin would have spoke up, he would have been labeled a diva, just like Terrell Owens, just like Chad Ochocinco, Ochocinco, even though nowadays, this is something here. Chad Ochocinco and Terrell Owens, they spoke up about a lot of different topics. And looking back, because we have the benefit of looking back, they were not
right.
wrong. They were not wrong on a lot of things they said. And nowadays, the NFL's got a fucking camera dedicated to celebrations. When back in their day, if you celebrated, oh, you're bringing attention to yourself and not the team. So yes, Calvin probably should have spoke up, but if he would have been, lambasted for that.
And to your point, Barry didn't speak up to the end.
Right.
Yeah, Barry didn't even celebrate on touchdown.
Barry's
So you already know he wasn't really the type that's gonna talk.
Barry's decision was to death. He was like, you know what, I can't do this no more. And I get it. Now, should Barry have spoken up 5 years in? Yeah.
See, but again, that goes back to who was in charge,
who are you
who was writing the check,
who are you talking to?
right, and who he was talking to, and he knew it wasn't gonna benefit nothing.
Falling on deaf ears.
If I was Calvin Johnson, I'd be like, this damn quarterback keep throwing it to me while I'm triple covered. He's still trying to throw it to me.
I'm gonna bring up.
I'm triple covered.
No other way.
I'm gonna bring up a movie briefly before we move into our next topic. For folks who, I mean, I'm sure by now you guys got the point. You probably agree with everybody on the screen, but just in case you don't, Moneyball. Go watch the movie Moneyball, because there's a scene in Moneyball. It's an athletics organization. There's a scene in Moneyball where Brad Pitt, who is the general manager of the Oakland Athletics in this film, he goes to the owner of the Athletics, and he is begging the owner of the Athletics. He's like, man, we want to win a championship. Please help me out here. And the owner of the Athletics says something to the extent of, listen, just do the best with what I give you.
Shit.
And the reason why I bring that up,
that's some shit, man.
But the reason why I bring that up is because the goals for Brad Pitt's character and the goals for the owner of the Athletics were not aligned.
Yeah.
So how many times did Calvin or Barry say something behind the scenes saying, hey, we could be this good? And the Ford said, just be good enough with what I give you.
Hey, Elijah.
We know they told that to Caldwell, because they.
Yeah, and you got Caldwell too, who probably did the same thing. Please give me some resources. I'll give you a Super Bowl.
He told them he needed a running back.
Here you go. Here you go.
He told them they needed a running back. They told him none of the running backs coming out in that draft was better than what he had on the field.
Right.
And on the roster. Zach Zenner, Justin Ford.
My point is that folks should be excited that we finally have an owner and a management that is aligned on what they want to do. That's my point.
For sure.
Go watch that
Absolutely.
movie. It's a great movie. You'll see Jonah Hill in a completely different light because he's not a comedian in that film. He actually was nominated for an Oscar for his performance in that. But it's very interesting because it talks about analytics, which has now started to infiltrate football. And you can kind of see like the story behind how that all happened, because it started in baseball and then came over to football. But let's get to our next topic here.
Reggie, go ahead. One last bar before I go.
Yep.
If you are a fan of this show, and you heard this topic, and you disagree with us, you need to do some serious soul searching.
Oh, Reggie.
Hey, no, he's right though. Because I mean, there's nothing that we said that's really even up for debate. But I'll put it out there anyway. I mean, you're more than welcome to try. You're more than welcome to try, but I don't think there's anything there for debate. But let's move on to our final two topics here. We have, will the Lions offense be better than it was last year? Will they live up to the hype, or is it too soon? We're going to start with Reggie on this topic. We need 3 reasons why they will, 3 reasons why they won't.
Well, it goes back to what I said earlier when we were talking about golf. Who really gonna stop them? Who's really gonna stop them? The 3 defenses that I saw that could possibly give us the issue. We had the Saints, got the Ravens, and I forgot who the other team was. And then there was somebody that was close to the top 10. I think it was like the Buccaneers. Outside of that, there's nobody that can really stop this offense. If the O-line does its job, if Goff embraces the moment, if we stay healthy, we're good. We are good.
Love it.
Now, reasons why they won't is the complete opposite of everything I just said. If the whole line is trash, if Goff is trash, and don't seize the moment, and we playing patchwork on the offense, it's gonna be a problem.
Agreed.
Nate,
Agreed.
your opinion.
Three reasons it could be better.
Hey,
Golf continues to his growth and taking the offense to another level. A durable and healthy backfield, where you truly have that thunder and lightning. And the O-line. The O-line. I wouldn't even say O-line. I'm going to say the defensive line. If the defensive line is doing what it needs to do, and that secondary is doing what it needs to do, I think we good. Easy. Now, if it's not, that means that we've got holes and injuries left and right. The team is still young, and the young guys take a step back. A lot of times rookies, they come in, they hit the ground running, but then they also, that sophomore season has generally, hit rookies and second-year guys kind of hard. So because now they're on everybody's watch, they're on the film. They've had time to prepare. Their tendencies are out there, what they like to do, what makes them uncomfortable. All those things are on film now. It's this not by a game-by-game basis. You have a year worth of film. And then also, if our coaches fall back, if Aaron Glenn doesn't get better, if he reverts to old habits, our secondary coaches. So I think we have the talent, but if the information isn't being received by our young core the way it should be, then I think we struggle. So, Bobby.
Yeah, I just want to start off. I'm not a pessimist, so I still want to talk about do the -3 first. And the main one is they figured out Ben Johnson. That's the reason why it wouldn't happen. Nate might remember when we had Cooter Ball. Everybody was loving Cooter Ball until the next year. They figured that shit out. So
Right.
that'd be one. And number two is to be honest with you, the growth of Jameson Williams. I love all our receivers, but we don't got a guy that's gonna take the top off the defense or let alone have help over the top. So I think that. And number three, the running game. We had a pretty damn good running game. We damn near gutted that whole room. We got rid of our top two running backs. So if we made it the wrong move with them, that's gonna show too. And as far as the positive, shoot, our division ain't offensive, ain't defensively heavily, ain't got great defenses. So I figure like if we can sweep the division this year, that'll be proof that our offense is good enough. And secondly, if the defense get better, if Goff ain't in the shootout, Goff can be more efficient. Goff can not have to be trying to throw the ball with the lead. He just be continuously being the game manager that he is. But when you ain't got a defense, it's a shootout every day. So If the defense get better, less shootouts help golf more. And two, I mean, and last but certainly not least, Brad Holmes draft picks. We got to talk about them because last year's team, everybody he drafted except for maybe one guy, maybe even two, they were instant impact performers. They was real contributors. So if they can keep up the trend of these guys coming in, making a difference, especially on offense, I think we definitely can be better. But if we don't, but if that defense ain't got better, that's going to hurt the whole team, not just the offense either. So that's me. That's my negatives and positives, Elijah.
All right. So for my three, I'm going to go pretty simple here. So we'll start off with positive, but I'll also give you the negative at the same time. So let's start with Jared Goff. Obviously, we talked about him at the beginning of the show. Jared Goff is going to be a big reason for our success or failure this upcoming season. On the success side, Jared Goff just needs to be Jared Goff, okay? Now, so far throughout his career, he has done a good job at this, where he has not let the outside voices and the outside expectations affect what he does. He just focuses on what he needs to do, focuses on running the offense. Here's my concern, though. He did go through a time period in LA where more was expected of him and more was expected of that team, specifically after their Super Bowl run. And people said, okay, Goff, show us something. And I feel like he went out there and he tried a little too hard and got himself into some situations that he did not need to get himself into, because he was trying to show that he was that dude instead of just being that dude. With this year's Detroit Lions, the expectations have never been higher. He does not need to fall into that trap of, hey, you know that double coverage throw that I would never try to make in a million years? I'm going to try to make that now. I'm going to try to show them I'm that guy. Don't do that.
Seen it
Take a
before.
check down. Do what you've been doing. We should be fine. Offensively, kind of the same deal with that. If we run the same type of offense we did last year and we stay healthy, we'll be fine. But if Ben Johnson goes in and says, hey, I got all these coaching offers last year, now let me show him something. And I'm going to become the mad scientist, and I'm going to, become the smartest guy in the room. And then you get too cute.
The new Mike Martz.
And now your offense is
Elijah might not know Mike Martz.
I do know Mike Martz. I do know. But my point is that if you try to get too cute, it can also be a detriment to you. So you've got Goff needing to be Goff. You've got this offense not getting too cute. And the third thing is we have the youngest team in the NFL, which means that every single one of these guys most likely has an Instagram. They got a TikTok. They got a Facebook. They got a Venmo. They got a Cash App. They got whatever, app you want to throw out there. They got it, which means that they are inundated with guys like us talking about our expectations of them, talking good about them. They got to keep that under wraps. I'm not going to say the old cliche of don't listen to it, because there's no way for them not to listen to it. But they got to figure out a way to not let that affect them, because if you get too high on yourself, man, this life and this league has a way of reminding you ain't as good as you are. So that's something else that I think that this team needs to focus on. We did a good job of it last year. When we started getting a little more attention towards the end of the season, we handled that. And Dan Campbell, to his credit, handled that. But that is something that they're going to have to, make sure to keep a lid on this upcoming season. And then the last thing I would say, and this is where the fan responsibility comes into play, we got to keep our head. Because we don't talk about it, obviously there's no Elijah Winfrey card where it shows how many cheers I did last year and how many were successful and how many failed. There's no stat for that. But my point is, we have to keep calm heads. If we come out and we lose to Kansas City, it ain't the end of the world. If we lose a couple games, it ain't the end of the world. We can't do what we did last year where people were calling for jobs when we started out 1-6, because then all of a sudden everybody's tune changed when we started winning games. So we have to remember our role in this, which is super important to any team, especially when we're the youngest team and these guys see what we say. I'm not saying you always got to, pat them on the back and be like, good job, even if they threw 5 interceptions. But what I am saying is, look at it as if they are your family member. How would you approach your family member? Are you going to call your family member a bum? Probably not. So that's the one thing I always talk about that when it comes to any sports team. Listen, as a fan, we have responsibility.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
But I'm just saying, but you get my point though. There's some things that people say.
I know, I got you.
That is way across.
Oh yeah, I know.
So I'm just saying we got to remember our responsibility in it. But those are my main things, and obviously the linebackers is what concerns me the most. Secondary, not really. Defensive line, not really. But linebackers, I don't want to see a quarterback run all over us again like they did last year. And final note for me on this topic. And I know Bobby's going to roll his eyes on this one, and I get it, but I'm just going to throw it out there. We cannot, yes, our division is not as good as it has been in years past. That is true. But if we go in believing that we don't even got to try, again, we're going to get humbled. And I would say watch out for the Chicago Bears and Justin
Why
Fields.
did you do that? Why did you do that?
I knew it.
Don't you do it. Don't do it. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to walk away.
Watch out for Justin Fields in Chicago. And the reason why I say that is because Justin Fields has been seeing what everybody's been saying about him. And I got a feeling he's coming out with a vengeance this year.
Just a small correction. We're not the youngest team in the league.
We're one of the youngest teams in the league.
We're not.
Who are the youngest then?
The youngest team is actually the Rams. It's the Rams, Packers, Chicago Bears, Colts, Seahawks. That's the top 5. We were 18 last year. And the active roster right now.
That defense was the youngest, though.
The active roster right now, we are the. Hey, where we go? We are 15th.
Okay. Well, I mean.
Okay. Well, let's say this: we are the young. When we're talking about starters on defense, then
If you talk about what our age of our best players are, it's probably lower than most.
But my point is, and I appreciate that, Reggie, because I never want to say the wrong thing. But my point is, regardless of age, you got to figure out how to block it out. And nowadays,
absolutely,
it's even harder to do that. We got one more topic left because I believe we went around the room. So we got one topic left. Players.
The Bears, huh? The Bears, huh? The damn Bears. Okay.
I'm just saying, like if they protect Justin Fields, maybe. I mean, they spent a hell of a lot of money.
Hey, listen. You would rather have Justin Fields trying to beat you with his arm than his leg anyway. So I will take that.
But see, that's what I'm saying. But see, that's the type of thing that I'm talking about, though, because people said not the same thing, but they were talking about Geno, and Geno came out and said, "Let me show you what I can do."
But the number one, he doesn't have the type of receivers that Geno had. Number one, he's got
the passing ability,
right, and Geno's older. True enough, what Geno did, he played himself into a contract. But we're not about to act like he doesn't have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Will Disley.
I get that, but what I'm saying is the Bears spent a lot of money this offseason to make their team better, as everybody else did, but they spent a lot more money than a lot of the people. I'm just saying, that's the one of all the teams in our division, that's the one that I look at.
We don't like your I'm just saying, Elijah.
Yeah.
I know. That's like a t-shirt that nobody wants to buy, but I'm just saying. So Broderick Martin, let's end this.
That's your t-shirt. That's
Yeah.
what you need. You need a t-shirt that says, I'm just saying, IJS. That's what you need.
So, Nate, you were the one that put Broderick Martin on our radar here as far as tonight's show. So,
Yeah.
what are we talking about with this one so that we can keep things moving?
What? Okay, so what we're going to do, Reggie, I need you for a second. What I need for you to do for me is tell me the defensive tackles. How many defensive tackles were taken before Broderick Martin?
I got you.
And while Reggie is looking that
Okay,
up.
okay, yeah. So while we're doing that, so out of Broderick Martin, so through all his testing, everything, you know, the grades go from 0 to 100. Broderick Martin ranked it at 6th. He was the 6th best defensive tackle. His total score was a 79.9 out of 100. So for the people who do not know him, they probably never heard of him. This is how much Brad Holmes and these guys actually do their homework. So again, you're talking about a guy 6'4", 330 pounds. He has a 84-inch wingspan. So one of the things that the teams have talked about during this camp, and because he played during the East-West Shrine game, they were in awe of his speed and athleticism, explosiveness for a guy this big. So this goes back to, you know, what Bobby.
It was 9.
It was 9.
9.
Okay. All right. So also what they talked about, the pluses of Broderick Martin, and this is from his team, his previous coaches, and what he's shown during the rookie minicamp. They talked about his character, his extraordinary leadership. He's a rigorous worker, and he's a space eater. They say truthfully right now he's impossible to block one-on-one. So you're talking about 6'4.5", 337 pounds. He's got almost 10-inch hands. We talked about his wingspan, 84 inches. Now, his 40-yard dash was a 5.3 three-cone drill, which we know when we're talking about guys in the trenches, that three-cone drill and that shuffle talked about that short area quickness. Now, his three-cone drill was at 8.1. His shuffle was better at a 4.9, 25-inch vertical, but he also had a 8'4" broad jump, which shows his explosiveness, his leg strength, and just how much of an athlete he is that people just don't understand. I don't think you know how hard it is for a guy 330 pounds to have a damn near a 9-foot broad jump, when most wide receivers and cornerbacks, some of them max out at around 9.5, almost 10. You get some exceptional guys, 11, or you get the workout worker in Byron Jones, who had a 12-foot broad jump, which was a combine record. Now, the weaknesses: doesn't use his hands, slow off the ball, limited college production. And they say with his leverage, he has a tendency to lose it because he stands straight up. Now, the reason why I brought that up is because I compared him to another guy. They say he doesn't bring much pass rush. He's too tall off the snap, he struggles to penetrate gaps, and which should be a hindrance in the NFL. Now, he's still graded, very high for a defensive tackle. He also is 6'4", but he's 347 pounds. 10-inch hands. His wingspan, 76 inches. His 40 was a 5.1 and a 5.2. Now, his 10-yard shuffle was a 1.7. That's fucking ridiculous. And he got up to 16 miles an hour. This guy right here is a guy we talked about earlier, which happens to be Vita Vea. And the reason why I did that is because of their enormous size. Now, he's got longer arms. He only did 20 on the bench press. But if anybody knows about lifting weights, taller guys with longer arms, we are Right,
Long
right.
yard,
We are
where it is.
completely deficient, which is why I never like my shoulders, chest, fine. I never was a bench press guy. Long arms. I'm 6'3", but I have a 6'9" wingspan. No,
Hey,
this is
at
one
my
of the
max,
things that comes in that's terrible.
at my max, 325 5 times, but I got short arms. It didn't take that much
Right.
to get
So
from my chest on up.
right. So that's why I wanted to bring it up because their weaknesses were very similar. Um, but his longer arms, and they're also talking about his speed, and he also, what they said, it comes and goes. His ability to shed blocks. And when you have long arms, you don't want to let these offensive guys, these offensive linemen get their hands on you. They get your hands on you, it's over. It's over. Unless you have the short arms, which you are extremely powerful, which Vita Vea does use. The only difference is Broderick Martin is long with extra. So they say he's crazy powerful. So, he's the perfect space eater. It brings into play how Bobby said that's what he would love to see right next to Aleem McNeil. So going into that, if you do your 4, you will have Broderick Martin at your 0 technique. That's the guy who's going to line up directly over the center. So, over the center, he may slide between the guard and the center. So he'll be dealing with the Lane Johnsons, Will Hernandez's. Thank God he's on our team. He's going against Frank Ragnow, the Kelseys and all these type of guys. So what I looked at, now what they called him, they have him labeled as an average backup and a special teams player. But they say he's a rigorous worker. And to me, those two things go perfect. Because if you're a rigorous worker, and this also leads to what Elijah says about social media and how you read these things. Like, what drives you to be better? What drives you to be more than what people expect you to do?
Hey, Nate, can I add something to what you just said?
Absolutely.
There was a question that he was asked before the NFL draft. It says, you're one of the most dominant run stoppers in the 2023 NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
What do you enjoy about stopping the run? Now, his answer is probably why Campbell fell in love with this kid. Now, remember, he said there's only a few people in this draft where I'm like, they got that it factor.
He did say that, yeah.
I think this statement solidifies. He said, when a team wants to run the football against you, I find that to be disrespectful. They think they could just run the ball down our throats. They think they could do whatever they want. That's disrespectful. I take it personally. But then here's the kicker. He said, it allows me to play with a chip on my shoulder. When you stop the run, you're making the offense one-dimensional. One of my coaches told me this once, and I took it to heart. A team could have 500 passing yards and still lose the game. You see it happen all the time. But if a team has 500 rushing yards, they won that game.
They ain't losing no game.
Yards, unrealistic, but he said, I think you get the point. They're not equal. So he said, as a defense, you cannot allow yourself to get physically manhandled. We have to dominate the offensive line. You do that by stopping the run. You have to make the offense consider their other options. That was the statement that kid gave when he asked that question. That won me. That won me. And I know it won Campbell.
I love it. Like I say, I mean, for a guy like that, man, you don't have too many expectations, especially when you're talking about sacks. If he gets a sack here or there, okay, you're fine. What you want this dude to do is to make sure that when they try to run through that A gap, when they try to, run these counters and you want to pull your center, that he completely blows everything up. That's what you want. That's what you want. So if he's going to do that and he's successful doing it, that completely throws out with the scouting report as far as him being an average backup and a special teams player. I don't know what special teams guy, 6'4", 330 pounds, you're going to have running as a gunner.
You know what, Nate? I don't. There was another question this kid got asked, and his answers, man, are immaculate. And if it
Hey,
goes,
but see, but that's what we do. That's what I said. That's what I wanted to spotlight them, because a lot of people look at Brad Holmes' picks because you don't watch Western Kentucky, because you've never heard of a Broderick Martin. You did, like I say, hey, he was graded out as the 6th best defensive tackle.
Mhm.
There were 9 taken in front of him.
8. I'm sorry, it was 8.
I'm sorry. There were 8 taken
No,
in
that
front
was
of
my
him.
fault. I said 9. It was 8.
Okay, right. So he was the 9th. They had him graded as the 6th best defensive tackle. So you get this kid in the 3rd round. You got some other more high-profile guys went in front of him. Okay, all fine and dandy. Like, but when you look at team need and what they talk about stopping the run. Like, we have to be physical up front. We want, guys that are going to force the other team to double team them. Because if you're forcing double teams, that means our outside guys get single blocking. Yeah, they may chip with a tight end or a running back, but if you're doing that, dude, we win it. And that's what you want to do. You want to force them to be one-dimensional.
Can I tell you what he said about being double teamed?
Go ahead. Hey, Reggie, you handle the big fella, dog.
Look,
Go ahead.
This kid, I'm telling you, man, this kid is, if his play backs up what he was talking about, is going down. He said, I rarely got those single blocks. When it comes to single blocks, I don't believe block could be 1 versus 1. I can't let a single person on this planet block me 1-on-1. It can't happen. Therefore, the rare times I get those single blocks, I have to win. I have to make a play every single time I get a single block. I get excited when I get those looks. I feel disrespected as well. The offense thinks they could block me 1-on-1. Wow. They must not think highly of me. I have to show them otherwise. Single block is very disrespectful. I rarely got single blocks in college, though. I was always getting those double teams. There's a different energy and mindset to those single blocks. And he said, I made a lot of plays in college against double teams. If I didn't get a single block, that meant I got a double team. I had to make those plays every single time.
All right, so Elijah, what do you think about those statements and what we presented to you? What are your outlook as of right now from what you originally, if you had any thoughts on Broderick Martin from earlier before we started the show to what me and Reggie have just presented to you? What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts whenever we drafted him was, that's interesting, because I've learned from, years of being a fan of this team and years of seeing other folks pick small college guys, being able to go, okay, give them a chance. Western Kentucky, they do play big boy football. They just don't get to play it on the big networks. And when I was looking into this guy, it was interesting because he didn't even have a proper highlight reel. And that was kind of telling to me because, obviously I used to live in Atlanta. I've lived in Florida. I've lived in Kentucky. I have seen some kids play high school ball who I thought were absolute beasts out there on the football field, but they had nobody in their corner with any video editing skills. And so they're out there doing these amazing things and nobody's hearing about it because they can't get out there. And I believe that if Western Kentucky had done their job of highlighting their own players and creating highlight reels for their guys, he would have went a lot higher than he did. There was a particular play where Western Kentucky played against Auburn. You need to go, if you haven't seen that play, these guys have.
I've seen that.
If you haven't seen that play, you owe it to yourself to go see it. Because he is going up against SEC offensive linemen and making them look like they play on the Pee Wee squad. Okay, it's like that commercial Cam Newton did that one time with the Pop Warner players.
Yeah, the little kid.
It was kind of like that. And we're talking about Auburn SEC football. So I was super impressed with that by him. And I was also impressed by how humble he was. I don't want to get his story wrong because that would be a huge disservice to him. But if you're looking for somebody who is humble, a hard worker, and has been through some shit, I would encourage you to look up his story. because if I'm not mistaken, he lost somebody that was very, very close to him. And I don't want to get the family member wrong, but it was one of the first questions he
Right.
was asked after he got drafted by the Lions, and how that has kind of turned him into the man that he is. So I'm rooting for the guy. As far as what Reggie just said, hey, I would expect nothing less from somebody who we hope to be very, very good for our Lions. And if his answers were anything different than what Reggie said, I wouldn't want him. So I'm very happy that he's on our team. And my hope is that he will find himself a starting role. And I do think that he's going to be a role player. I don't think he's going to be somebody out there for all 4 downs. I think he'll be brought out in special situations. And I just hope he excels when he has that opportunity. Reggie, go ahead.
He actually spoke to that. Well, my last one.
Okay.
Reggie got him wrong. I told
They
you.
asked him a question. They said, why should a team use one of their draft picks on Broderick Martin? He said, whichever team drafts me is going to get an amazing run stopper. He said, I'm going to play that role for us. He said, I love playing in the trenches and doing the dirty work for our defense in the run game. But here's the kicker. He said, I'm going to add a ton of value to the defensive line. I'm so much more than a role player. I'm going to add depth and competition. You're going to get a hard worker. I'm a dog, man. I want to dominate anybody in front of me.
I feel you.
Here's the kicker. I'm very coachable. I want to learn. That's why somebody should draft me. It'll be worth it.
Well, and like I said, I hope that all works out. I will be curious to see, obviously as we talk about with all this, look at that defensive tackle room. There's only so many spots that we're allowed to have. But you've got Bugs, you've got Kaminsky, you've got McNeil, you've got Levi, and now you have Broderick Martin.
You got Benito
Who's gonna be the odd
Jones.
man out?
You got some guys.
Who is going to be the odd man out when it's all said and done? And that's the unfortunate part about this. But my hope is that he excels. And as far as Western Kentucky is concerned, again, I look at it and I'm not trying to call out their PR department or nothing, but I kind of am. Like, why would you not make sure that every player that could potentially be drafted from your squad has a proper highlight reel? Like, what are you doing? Like, every other school does that for their kids, and Western Kentucky didn't do that.
Better call
Agreed.
Bobby. Call Bobby.
And
Call Bobby.
this is not the first time. This is not the first time in recent years that Western Kentucky has had somebody who has been drafted. You look at Bailey Zappi, for New England. Again, and I'm pretty sure he had a highlight reel. Maybe it's just defensive tackles that don't get no love. I don't know. But my point is that as a college, you would think that is part of your job. They're paying you enough money in tuition. You would think that you would make sure they have a proper highlight reel. But anyway, I'm rooting for Broderick. I think he's going to be a good player. Based on what you guys were saying, and I don't remember this player's actual years in Detroit very specifically, but as you guys were talking about him, Nate and Reggie, I was thinking, is he going to be what Haloti Ngata was for the Lions, but a younger version? Because like we got Haloti towards the end of his career.
Oh,
I'm looking at it thinking maybe this is Haloti 2.0 from the beginning.
Here's it.
I'm thinking more like Big Baby. More like Big Baby.
Yeah, more like Big Baby Dan Wilkinson because, or you talking about Sean Rogers. But
yeah, Sean Rogers, yeah.
Haloti Ngata is in a class of his own. I would not even want him to. That to me, that's injustice.
And that kind of pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
And if people, and I'm sorry,
Haloti
if you do not know, well, Haloti Ngata and the amount of sacks and disruption this guy was causing as a young defensive tackle, being that big, it's unheard of. Truthfully, Haloti Ngata was a man. Truthfully, when I think of zero techniques, Haloti Ngata is number one. Okay. There's not a defensive tackle that played that zero technique that I would ever pit in front of Haloti Ngata.
So that's obviously like
Haloti Ngata.
That's what you hope to achieve.
Haloti Ngata is Haloti Ngata, the Mount Rushmore of zero techniques. You can say Haloti Ngata. You can say Vince Wilfork.
Yep.
and then it takes a taper off where you can go to maybe, and this is how it hasn't been that many dominant guys.
Remember Stubblefield for the 49ers? He was pretty good.
No. What Dana wasn't a zero tech. Dana was a 3. He was a 3 tech.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when you look at Dana Stubblefield, you talking about Dana Stubblefield, Cornelius Bennett from Buffalo back then. Like those guys, they were very, very movable along that defensive line. Geno Atkins. So those guys, but literally, I think of, like I say, Haloti Ngata, Vince Wilfork, Casey Hayward right now from Pittsburgh. Truthfully, and I can say Vita Vea is up there at an early age. Dexter Lawrence for the Giants is right there. Like that's how far of a taper off the gap is, right? Because after them, there's not too many dominant zero techs you've seen in the NFL. Like I would put Tony Saragusa, who's very well known, like on the bottom. Tony Saragusa is like the fat dude from Longest Yard. Somebody give me a cheeseburger.
Canaccord.
Don't you guys run away from me.
But I mean,
so you guys better not cut me.
But maybe Broderick can get there at some point. You know?
Hey Nate, the only thing I would say on top of that, Haloti Ngata and James Harrison had some of the craziest workout videos I've ever seen in my life. Like Haloti Ngata is a freak of nature. He's a freak of nature. Like
for real. I don't think that's why I said that to me. And if people don't know, I would like I say, if he even produces what Haloti Ngata did as a Lion, I would be impressed, because even Haloti Ngata as a Lion was still garnering double and triple teams and still chasing quarterbacks at that size that age.
I'm just throwing it out there because
you good.
I mean,
like I say, you started a little late, so you ain't see Haloti Ngata, in his heyday.
Right.
So
well,
I got you.
And again, I'm just saying, you get a player who has gone through what this kid has gone through in his life. Being drafted is like, okay, that's not the top of the mountain for this kid. That's the start of the mountain. That's the saying, hey, here's the opportunity. Are you going to walk through that door and take advantage of it or not? And I just know, as somebody who has been through some shit in my personal life growing up, that when you put people like Broderick Martin and you give them an opportunity, the sky's the limit. And that's why I'm saying, like, for me, I'm looking at what he's been through, all the answers that he gave at the combine that Reggie read for you, all the stats that Nate gave to you, and I'm looking at going, why not? Why not? I mean, I believe in our coaching staff. They'll get every ounce of this guy that they possibly can. And if he was on another team, he'd probably get buried and he probably wouldn't get as many opportunities. But I mean, he's walking into a room right now where, hey, you have that opportunity. It's right there for you if you get out there and take it. And from what Reggie was saying, this guy said, I got a feeling maybe it's something special. We'll see. And those small college guys, again, those guys who don't have those proper highlight reels, just because they don't have a highlight reel don't mean they suck. Sometimes it's they're the best kept secret. And I think that's what this guy could end up being. Bobby, we're going to send it over to you, and then we're going to go to closing remarks.
Oh no, I don't have too much to say about that. It's just that I'm already excited. I don't really put too much weight into what's done in OTAs. As soon as they put the pads on, you can put what he said, put the words into action. And I'm a bet on him because I did see like what we are, because as fellow resident scouts that we all are on the Hunt podcast, we make our own interpretations of what we see. And the main thing I look for is with these small college guys is what they did against the big time names like Auburn, So and he did hold his stuff to that's what probably got him drafted, to be honest. So I'm waiting to see. I like he talk a good talk, but we'll see the walk real soon, real soon.
Just as a heads up, the person that he lost was his older brother. He died from leukemia in October of 2021, and he said that his father was never around. His brother was his father figure. He said he was real close to him. He was his protector. He was his right hand man. He said he got called up. He was my everything. He's my motivation. So that was a statement that he made.
Good young man.
I appreciate that, Reggie, because I couldn't remember which family member it was, and I didn't want to misspeak. But again, obviously losing anybody, that sucks, but losing somebody who is a father figure and that close to you, like I said, I don't know, man. I have a feeling about this kid that, like, I'm just saying, I got a feeling about this kid that, when you have that type of fire.
I swear we get the shirt.
I have to do it in a good way. Otherwise, Bobby wouldn't forgive me. But I'm just saying, you get that type of fuel. Watch out. That's all I'm saying. So let's go closing remarks. We're going to start with Reggie.
I love my Lions, man. I'm so ready for this season, man. It's ridiculous. Like, especially like how I feel about the big fellas, man. We got a lot of dudes. They got a lot of heart. They got the work ethic. They got motivation. They got every reason to want to come into this season and be dominant. And that's what I want to see. I want us to dominate the trenches. I want, we got the secondary address. Guess what? The persons that help the most is that D line. And it also helps the offense.
Yep.
So, being able to get timely stops, being able to get the ball back quickly, that's what the dudes in the trenches can help make happen. So that's why I'm excited about for this season.
Bobby, closing remarks, my friend.
I'm just ready for some football, man. All this talking about a little bit of football is freaking me out, man. I'm just ready to go.
Freaking me out.
I'm just ready to go.
You got that wacky tobacco. You all right?
No, some of the shit you said got me freaked out for real. But honestly, no, I'm just ready for football season. Oh yeah, hey Reggie, look at my new screensaver.
Big golfing.
Believe in golf. Look at that drip. Wow, look at that
They got
drip.
some buffs on that man.
Look at that man buffed up.
Yeah, buffs on that man.
That is your leader. No, I'm joking, but man, this is fun to talk about football. And I just want to thank, like Elijah said earlier, like Elijah said earlier, thank Nate again for giving us some topics to talk about, man. Real talk. Good looking, big dog.
Nate, we're
That's
going
some pretty shoes you got on.
Truthfully, just go Lions, man. I like I say, episode 36, 35. I'm just happy that you came to me with this idea. We talked about it, but then you hit me up with you ready? And I said, you sure? You said, yeah, I'm ready to do it. And he said, you got some people you want to bring on? Yeah, I got the perfect guys, and since then, man, it's like, hey, we like the A-team. I love it when the plan comes together, man.
Hey,
Nate,
I was just
you
a
broke
feature. I was
up.
supposed to pop on for an episode or two.
Hey,
I was just supposed to.
Hey, look, you was, hey, look, but you, man, like I say, man, when you have a group of people and they come together and not just your mindsets match, but your personalities match. You know what I mean? And it grows. It grows from a show to a fellowship to an extension of your family, to where, hey, y'all know, like, the type of conversations we have when we've talked about my dad and his cancer and things that Reggie's been going through, to Elijah's dad and his things going through, to Bobby having to have a beautiful wife but to be a Packer fan.
And smoking that wacky tobacco.
I mean, that's the real tragedy of everything. That's the
Oh, it's beautiful, man. You
But
should see the
all
shit
in
I see.
all, man, I just love y'all guys, man. And like I say, man, hey, in the words of Jawan, we gonna shock the world. But crazy part is, hey, the only way we shock them is if we don't make the playoffs. Right now,
Yeah,
everybody, the bets
they
are
betting on
on
us.
us to
Yeah, they
finally
betting
be
on
what
us.
we need to be. Right. That's the crazy part. Yeah. So look, it's crazy to be only shocked as if we don't do something. So, like I say, man, I'm just happy. Like Bobby say, I'm ready for some football, man.
Man, this is almost
So,
football.
I enjoy who got.
So to close us out, again, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everybody who has supported, this venture, any other venture that I've been a part of, because I know sometimes we get folks who tune in who aren't Lions fans, but they're fans of mine. They're fans of stuff I do. So I just want to say thank you for all the support. It's funny because back in, and this is going to be a little bit long, so bear with me, but back in 2013, back in 2013, I had, started doing stuff on YouTube. I had done a film, and then, I had tried to do Ballad of Billy Badass 2 times, and watched that production crumble both times, which was, obviously demoralizing. And then I came back in 2020, shortly after getting married to Cassandra, and we actually filmed that movie throughout the pandemic. And I'll be honest with you, folks, it was only supposed to be one movie. That was it. It was just because I wanted to film that one movie because I had written it back in 2014, and I just wanted to finally finish that one film. And this past weekend, I was sitting at a comic book convention. We had our whole booth. We had our Captain Corp shirts. We had our Billy Badass shirts. I had these guys on the screen behind me because we were playing a highlight reel of all the different things that we have going on. And it's just crazy to me the way that life works. You go from just wanting to complete one movie to having 2 movies that are coming out, one on a streaming service, having 3 different podcasts going on, and being able to meet all these amazing people. So my point and my message, if you take anything of what I said today seriously, take this seriously. If you got something that you really want in this life, go for it. Go for it. Surround yourself with good people and go for it. And I would also encourage you, and I try to live this in my own life, be humble enough to listen to those folks around you because they want you to be just as successful because it's a team effort here at this studio. I love these fellas. I love what we're doing. And I can't wait to do more. By the way, we got a movie podcast that Bobby, Nate, and I are going to be on. Maybe Reggie can make an appearance on a couple episodes too. But we got a lot of cool stuff happening over here. And again, this is a big piece of it. So thank you for your support. And with that, for Reggie Funches, for the #1 Lions fan, Mr. Bobby Bless, and for Nate Rucker and myself, Elijah Winfrey, we wish you a very good night.
Patricia.
And for not Patricia, I didn't forget this time, not Patricia. We want to wish you a very, very good night. We will see you very soon, my friends. Thank you so much.